the last game against them. Michigan hasn't won at Michigan State since '07, and Taj Boyd back in his home state of Virginia, leading Clemson in against the Cavaliers, who are reeling and in free fall.
Welcome to Charlottesville, Virginia, the second straight away game for Clemson. But since last year, the road has risen to meet the Tigers.
A win on the road for Clemson. Firing into traffic, but right on the money. Touchdown, Taj.
Holy cow! What a catch by Hopkins in the clutch.
He's got Bryant out there. Touchdown, Clemson. It's Humphreys again. That looks familiar. Touchdown.
Watkins again. What a catch. Today, Clemson goes for its 8th straight win away from Death Valley against a Virginia team looking for a signature victory. College football on ESPN is presented by Cars.com. Welcome to the ACC on ESPN. 4 games remain for Clemson with much left to play for. Today they begin November against Virginia. Good afternoon, everybody. Mike Patrick, Ed Cunningham. It's great to have you with us. Janine Edwards will join us shortly. Last week, Clemson accomplished exactly what it wanted, that bounce-back game against Florida State. Today, it's about taking care of business against the team you're supposed to beat.
And last week, going into the Maryland game, everyone thought Clemson would blow them out. Well, Maryland's much better than people think they are. And there were some red zone struggles for Clemson in the middle part of that game. But one part of Clemson's game that's been really great this year is the return of Sammy Watkins. Let's not forget, had an unbelievable freshman year, dealt with some off-the-field problems last year and was not quite healthy. But in last week's game, you started to see the best player, in my opinion, maybe in the country. Sammy Watkins does so many different things. Now, here's the scary part for Virginia. They're going to get him on the move, and they're going to try to hit him more often as he's running at full speed. That sounds kind of dangerous.
Really does, and it's already been a tough year for the 2-6 Cavaliers. But to their credit, they haven't mailed it in, and there have been signs of progress.
And you have to give credit to Mike London. He brought in basically an entirely new staff. We saw this team against Oregon in week 2, and they didn't look great, and they have made real improvement, especially at the quarterback spot. David Watford has now had to take over as the center point for this offense. Last week in the loss to Georgia Tech, 61 passes attempted. Expect to see more of that today. Virginia's going to air it out to try to win.
David Watford, a native of Hampton, Virginia. So is Taj Boyd, who is 28-7 as Clemson's starting quarterback. Last week's Boyd's gritty performance helped his Tigers beat the Terps. Today, he plays for only the 2nd time as a collegian in his home state.
All things are possible. You play for an audience of one. I ask you, who do you play for? Faith, family, football, team, whatever it is. All things are possible. Don't let this moment pass you by. Live for the moment. Run to the middle of the ring and let's throw haymakers. Let's go play this game. Let's play. We got nothing to lose. Let's turn it loose. Yes, sir.
As Mike London gets his team ready to play, a very good pre-game speech. Of course, he's been a little bit under fire. Craig Littlepage, the athletic director, coming out this week and saying, no, we're on plan, on task here with Mike London.
Did you respond?
I did.
To things like that?
I did. And, you know, the idea of throwing haymakers and having nothing to lose, that's what's dangerous for Clemson and Dabo Swinney is Clemson has become one of those teams that they're so high profile that you play a team like Virginia and they may pull out a few extra things. They may try to do some different stuff. And an improving Virginia team, I'm sure that's weighing on Dabo's mind.
Took over for Tommy Bowden midway through the 2008 season. And has won more than 2/3 of his game. Virginia won the toss and deferred their choice, so Clemson will get the football. Watkins and Green, the deep men. Dylan Sims has 10 touchbacks in his kickoff duties this year. Booms this one. Knocks it out of bounds. Taj Boyd will lead the Clemson offense. For more on him, here's Janine Edwards.
Well, Mike, after today, he's got 3 regular season college games left. It's all starting to get to Taj Boyd. And this season, the pressure's been intense. He's got younger guys around him. Everyone's turning to him for answers. So today, he'll try to keep the clutter out and focus on these 4 things. Eye discipline, patience in the pocket, body language, staying positive, and most importantly, have fun.
Well, Janine, with the offense he's got around him, he usually does have fun. And quickly he goes out to Watkins on the flanker screen. And Sammy Watkins breaks a tackle across the 30. Flag down. That might be either a hold or a face mask as he was spun down. We'll check it.
Face mask for 5 on the defense. 15 yards, automatic, first down.
That's the 6'2" freshman Tim Harris called for a face mask. I guess if it's Watkins, any way you can get him down.
Harris right there at the end. And you don't, as a defender, you don't know to let that go. And Harris, of course, getting a lot of run as a true freshman because the 2 top corners for Virginia, Maurice Kennedy and Demetrius Nicholson, are out with injuries.
Hot Rod McDowell tried to get offside, or tried to get outside, was cut off by Dante Wilkins, and then David Dean made the tackle.
David Dean, a young defensive lineman. Of course, Virginia, another key defensive player out in Brent Urban, a great 6'7", knocks down the ball at the line of scrimmage, has a lot of PBUs, missing him as well.
Hope to get him back in a week or 2. Again, it's Sammy Watkins on the flanker screen. He gets to midfield. Gain of only about 3 before Henry Coley, the middle linebacker, made the stop.
And the one thing Chad Morris said they were going to try to do, you've got Watkins over to the left, is try to get him in some crossing routes and get him in front of Taj Boyd running full speed.
Boyd throws underneath, this time to Bryant, Martavis Bryant, to the Virginia 33. It's a gain of 17 yards. Bryant last year was #1 in the country. Even though he made only 10 catches, he averaged 30 yards a reception.
And Virginia, very early on, playing like Maryland, playing way off, making Clemson have to play every play, not get big ones.
Boyd straight back to throw, goes deep. Watkins, touchdown. Pitch and catch to perfection. Tim Harris beaten by 2 steps, and Boyd laid it on the money. That was too easy.
Wonderful throw by Boyd. Put great air under it. Watkins had leaned back into the defender, has really good feel for routes. You're right, that did look too easy. And watch at the very end of this throw, Watkins, just great adjustment to the ball. There was decent coverage there. He's just a different level of athlete.
Clemson certainly made it look easy on the first drive. It took them less than a minute and a half to get their first touchdown against Virginia. See how the Cavaliers respond as they have Taquan Mizell and Darius Jennings deep to receive the kick. Cavaliers decided underdogs against the 7-1 Clemson Tigers. Mizell on the bounce, 2 yards deep. He'll take a knee.
Let's go back to the play before and look how this speed, Watkins, of course, here on the outside. Watch what happens when a guy has this much speed. When he gets to the break point in the route and the 2 defenders to that side, Riho Walker there in the middle, and on the outside is the corner, Tim Harris. They peek back into the backfield. It's zone coverage. So as soon as they got their depth, they figured they'll take a peek. That one peek causes half a step to slow down, and against Sammy Watkins, as Ron Cherry, our referee today, calls a personal foul against Clemson, which will add 15 yards onto the end of the touchback. But that you take that half step. I don't care, even if you are Florida State or a team like that that has some more speed maybe on your back end, against Sammy Watkins, that half step makes it look like it was that easy.
Clemson was offsides on the kickoff, so they mark off an additional 5 yards. Virginia starts from the 30. And they start with Parks bursting through the line for 5 yards. Robert Smith with the tackle. Here's Janine.
Well, Mike, this is a big day for Virginia quarterback David Watford. You know, he's coming off a record-setting game last week at Maryland. He's in front of his home crowd here in Virginia. But he also knows that many in this crowd came to see another quarterback from the Hampton area, and that's Taj Boyd. The two played against each other in high school, and Watford has watched Boyd set just about every record. He's eager to show this crowd how far he's come as well.
And they need his performance. That pass was too high, intended for Zachary Swanson, the tight end, but poorly thrown and off his fingertips.
Hey, going back to correct, Ron Cherry gave the personal foul symbol, but it was actually offsides Clemson, so just a 5-yard penalty. Of course, last year they moved the touchback up to the 25-yard line for the offense, so Virginia got set on the 30.
3rd and 5 for the Cavaliers. One thing you don't want against Clemson or another high-powered offense is 3 and outs. And that's what Virginia's looking at unless they can get 5 yards on this play. 4-man rush, the throw underneath, and it's going to be just out to the 40-yard line. Plenty for the first down to their most reliable receiver, Jake McGee. His 32nd grab of the season. He leads the club. Young man who was recruited as a quarterback, but the first week he was in camp as a freshman, they said, son, we're going to put some weight on you and make you a tight end.
And he's a guy who has a great feel. He is really the key guy to this passing game. Was out last week against Georgia Tech, so good for Virginia to have him back. Watch them use 83, not so much as a tight end, but a slot, especially when they get down inside the 10-yard line.
Mizell, the big-time recruit out of the Hampton Roads area, will lose a yard. Let's take a look at today's impact matchup brought to you by Jared, the Galleria of Jewelry.
Grady Jarrett at defensive tackle for Clemson, I think, is maybe the most undersung guy in this entire defense. Really sets the point, and this is a much improved defense over last year for Clemson. And a guy that's really exciting to watch, Jaron Kearse, who had a huge game against Maryland, really looks the part. All it is going to take is a little bit of experience for him to do better. And then for the offense, Luke Bowanko has to come along, and we have also already seen Jake McGee make an impact.
Kevin Parks is back in. Watford was a planned quarterback draw, but he hesitated, and then there was nowhere to go. And Corey Crawford swallowed him up along with Shuey, who came up from his linebacker spot.
Now, the problem with 3rd and 12 for Virginia, it's such a long route to get open for 12 yards, and I'm not sure that you're going to be able to do it against this pass rush. So if you're Virginia, I think you have to think something underneath, maybe even a screen. I'm not sure you can wait this long.
Watch Vic Beasley, number 3, one of the premier pass rushers in the country. They contain him this time. The pass is complete, but about 2 yards shy of a first down. Keon Johnson, who just started playing about a month ago, picked up his 8th catch. He's a 6'3" freshman.
And you know, if you're playing Clemson and you're this much of an underdog, Virginia, I think you have to go for it here at the middle of the field. I get the punting it away, but you made a mention a moment ago, Mike, playing against an offense like Clemson, you don't want to give them the ball back, especially if you have a chance to convert here.
Vozenilik will punt. Adam Humphries is deep. Humphries makes the fair catch just outside the 10-yard line. 40-yard punt, no return. Taj Boyd and the Clemson offense go back to work when we return to Charlottesville.
ESPN College Football is presented by Cars.com. Get the right car without all the drama. Cars.com. All drive, no drama.
Our crew working hard this week. A little road trip out to Carter Mountain Orchard. Virginia known for its fine apple harvest every year. Hot Rod McDowell is the tailback. He'll get the carry. cuts it off left tackle up to the 15-yard line.
It's interesting, that run there where the two guards pulled, such an old school toss sweep play that they've really started using more here at Clemson. They use it some with Taj Boyd, but McDowell, the big game last week, not wanting to run Boyd as much if they don't have to.
It was only his second 100-yard game, got it last week against the Terps, and his first 2 touchdowns of the season, which was pretty shocking to see that stat.
We learned last week Taj Boyd had suffered a slight ankle injury against Florida State, and then he hurt his knee in that first drive against Maryland. So talking to Chad Morris, they didn't want to run Boyd much last week, and so McDowell figuring more into the plan.
Clemson comes with a 5-man rush, and they got there. John Tenuta, the defensive coordinator, known for his skill at designing blitzes. He's rather limited with the youth on this defense, but he brought 5 that time, and it worked.
And it looked to me like a quarterback run was called, and it was the blitz by the middle linebacker, Coley, that was perfectly timed. That's one of those calls that you had the exact right blitz called against the play that was called.
Pinion to kick to Tim Smith. Nice high floater. Fair catch to the 46-yard line after a 41-yard punt. Undefeated ACC foes reignite a classic rivalry on ABC Saturday Night Football tonight as sophomore running back Duke Johnson and number 7 Miami go up against freshman sensation Jameis Winston and number 3 Florida State. Saturday Night Football presented by the new Windows tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC.
Of course, Jameis Winston, who had a wonderful game against Clemson a couple of weeks, and Florida State looked really good against NC State last week. And for the ACC, a very important game. If Florida State beats Miami, stays undefeated, you kind of need Miami to win out and then face Florida State again in the ACC championship to maybe ensure they'll get in the BCS title.
Jameis Winston has been a remarkable freshman quarterback. A little swing pass to Shepard there. Our first chance to check in with Reese Davis. Reese.
Mike, Taco Bell studio update. The world's largest outdoor orthopedic rehab center, Georgia and Florida. Todd Gurley, playing for the first time in a month, held on to the ball just long enough to give the Dogs a 7-0 lead, but the Gators have a 3rd and goal at the 10 right now.
That's great. Reese referring to the moniker that game used to have as the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. And I participated in that several years, so I know it was aptly named.
And Clemson fans understand the importance of Todd Gurley. Clemson with that huge win against Georgia when they just about had their full deck of players. Of course, Georgia now depleted. Now an important 3rd down here for Virginia. 3rd and 5 on the 3rd and short before for Clemson. There was a blitz by Virginia. Let's see if Clemson brings some pressure on this 3rd medium.
They shift the strength of the formation to the left side and then send Mizell out into the flat. They throw underneath to their big tight end, Jake McGee. Good catch. Watford made it a difficult catch for McGee, but somehow he was able to pull it in and get a 1st down.
Bunch over to the left. Nice call by Steve Fairchild. Clear out, and then McGee just follows right behind it. Little bit of a clear out by 49 Zachary Swanson. Virginia lucky they didn't get called for offensive pass interference. A little bit of a clear out there, but McGee makes a wonderful catch on a ball thrown a little high and hard behind him.
Watford's got to make that throw so the receiver can get some extra yardage in stride and not have to use all his momentum to catch the ball. This time he throws underneath and misses McGee.
And that was Corinne Wiggins coming on the blitz from the outside. Another true freshman I mentioned in the impact players. How much the Clemson staff and watching on film, they're excited about Jaron Kearse. But this young man, Wiggins, who's been playing a bunch more nickel back, which means a cornerback getting closer to the line of scrimmage. And it's a lot of run support. It's a lot of feel in the passing game. And Brent Venables, defensive coordinator, and the entire staff excited about these young players that they're starting to get in here on defense.
The guy I like to watch is 17, Bashad Breeland.
Boy, did he play well in that second half last week.
I mean, he's just head and shoulders above everybody else. Taekwon Mizell, who made a real impact on the Virginia program just by signing. He was a parade All-American, their first 5-star recruit. in several years, and they've tried to work him into the lineup. He has had a problem with just going ahead and hitting the hole that's there. He tends to dance around and look for the home run every time he's been in.
And now here, 3rd and 9 and 3rd and 10. You're on the plus side of the field. I don't think you have to get it all.
Blitz coming. Watford unloads. He's got a first down and more. Nice catch by Keon Johnson. Big target at 6'3", and Watford was right on the money with that one. I think anytime you're inside the 40 now, it's 4-down territory for them, don't you?
You have to think that way. You're just not going to get Clemson 3 and off too often. 85, Keon Johnson, one of the true freshmen who's been getting a lot more time early in the year. Some of the veteran guys were fighting with, they were having some drops, and so that's a young guy, Johnson, who came in and giving them good depth.
A good-looking athlete. Watford takes off. Flag down, by the way, back at the 24-yard line.
And Watford shows you something that Steve Fairchild, the first-year offensive coordinator, former head coach at Colorado State, who came in during the staff change-up here at Virginia in the offseason. And it looks like from Ron Cherry you're going to get an offsides on defense. But Watford is a guy who's a really good straight-line runner. Doesn't quite have, here's a look at Steve Fairchild, doesn't quite have the elusiveness that Taj Boyd has on the other side. But when Watford gets going...
Offside. Defense. A penalty is declined. Second down.
But this is
he's not a statue.
No, he's a long strider. He gains a lot of ground, and I think does a wonderful job here in the pocket. Watch him go up. So many guys, so many young quarterbacks want to bail backwards into the left or the right. Well, the money is going up into the pocket. Nice job by Watford.
Made a great move to deke Stephon Anthony for an extra 5 yards. Parks is the running back. Parks off left tackle inside the 10 to the 9. I thought Steve Fairchild, when we talked to him earlier this week, said something great about Parks. There's a lot of things he's not. He's not a home run hitter. He's not a 235-pound back that can just crunch you. But let's embrace what he is. He's a good, hard-nosed kid who can get the yards the play's blocked for.
I remember when I was in the NFL, they talked about run efficiency. Do you run the ball efficiently? That was a really efficient run.
They'll try Parks in the middle again, picks up maybe 3.
And that play right there, I think, fits more with what you're just talking about. The play before was well blocked. He made another nice move on Anthony, the middle linebacker, to get some extra yards. That one, it was dirty, and he still found a little bit of a seam to pick up a few positive yards.
He's averaging almost 4.5 yards a carry. They get another try. No, Watford on the keep. Nice fake. Watford. Touchdown. Nice fake by Watford and showed some speed to get to the corner. Give some credit to Jake McGee, who was downfield throwing him a block. He had Breland engaged, and that gave him the room. Virginia to tie. 7-7. There is a flag down on the point after.
Nice call by Steve Fairchild, too. Last week against Georgia Tech in the end of the first half, they couldn't run between the tackles.
The foul is for running into the kicker. Penalty line. The PAT is good.
And Steve Fairchild told us yesterday, I'm going to spread out more once we get inside the 10. That was a spread formation with a quarterback run. Good call.
Virginia comes back against Clemson. We're tied at 7 in Charlottesville. College football tonight. Number 9 Missouri looking to bounce back at home against Tennessee. Team fighting for bowl eligibility. College football primetime presented by Hampton Hotels tonight at 7 on ESPN. Also live on Watch ESPN. Watkins and Green are back to receive. And over the head of Sammy Watkins. And here's Reese Davis.
Mike, Dr. Pepper 10 conference update takes us to the SEC. Jacksonville for Georgia and Florida on a 3rd and 5. Aaron Murray to Todd Gurley. Now, Gurley's playing, and he's a warrior, but he's not the picture of health. Had to deal with that ankle first game in more than a month. He scored 2 touchdowns, but they're looking at the ankle on the sideline right now. 14-0 Dogs.
He is a tough kid. Hopefully he can continue. He's certainly key to that ball club's future. Watkins fly sweep. And whether he gets it or not on that play, it's just a dangerous look. Let's go to Janine.
Well, yeah, it is dangerous, and that's something that secondary coach Anthony Poindexter was just talking to his defense about, wanting them to key in on the tight end for Clemson because he is following the ball when they run those sweeps. So he's telling safeties, follow the tight end.
They fake it this time, set up the screen to McDowell, and McDowell knocked down in the backfield by Daquan Romero, the number 2 tackler on this team, who diagnosed that play perfectly and stayed home.
And Romero was clear across the formation when he read that. Really nice job. Watch, he's all the way over to the left. The screen's going to go to the right. That's his responsibility. Good read and react.
Boyd under a little pressure goes to McDowell, wide open out of the backfield. McDowell to the 42-yard line. Rio Walker had to make the tackle, but it's 27 yards downfield.
Well, the linebackers for UVA turn and bail out. Watch Henry Coley turn and run and completely lose sight. There is nobody with their eyes on the eligible receiver, McDowell. That looked like a blown assignment for UVA.
Martavis Bryant with the catch. They're just going after Harris and eating the freshman up. 37 yards.
Good coverage. It's just so hard when you're going against a 6'5" receiver who has such good feel. Harris at 6'2", not giving up a ton. He's in good position, but once again, a perfectly thrown ball by Taj Boyd on the long throw.
And Harris needs to be able to find the football. Clemson moving the pile inside the 5 to about the 2.
And this is where last week against Maryland in that second, third quarter into the fourth, where Clemson inside the 5 had their struggles, and talking to the coaches and Chad Morris, the offensive coordinator, they really would rather not run Taj Boyd as much. He's late in the season getting banged up. So this is important for Clemson to be able to stick one in here.
Off the left side, C.J. Davidson, touchdown, Clemson. It wasn't D.J. Howard. It was D.J. Howard, number 22 instead of 32. No, Davidson.
Yeah, C.J. Davidson going down the depth a little bit, just gets in. And this is where, again, because Taj Boyd is such a gifted runner between the tackles, he's so good, and he's a big guy at 225 pounds. So Clemson trying to find another way inside the 5-yard line to get some production out of the run game, and that time they bring in the junior Jenkins, excuse me, the sophomore Davidson.
Just gets the ball across the plane before the knee hits. So Clemson responds to Virginia's touchdown with a march of their own, and they go back up by 7. Welcome back to ESPN College Football, presented by Cars.com. 14-7 Clemson. Tigers trying to win another one on the road. The Cavaliers looking for only their 3rd victory of the year. Taquan Mizell, Darius Jennings are deep. Mizell hesitates, then brings it out. He who hesitates is buried at the 12-yard line. And it was B.J. Goodson who just decleated him.
And what's nice about this tackle, no head in the play. Mizell should have just taken a knee there. But watch Goodson The head was up, wrapping through a good physical tackle with no head involved. Good contact. Both players are okay. That's wonderfully done by B.J. Goodson.
Meisel's nickname is Smoke, and he got smoked.
Well, the one thing they've had a problem with Meisel is he's so used to hitting home runs because he was so much faster than most people in high school. Well, that doesn't happen when you find out that guys like B.J. Goodson are playing on special teams in the ACC.
Straight up the middle, Watford hands it to Parks, and Kevin Parks picks up 9. If they can run at all, it takes so much pressure off of Watford.
And they could not run last week against Georgia Tech, so they went almost exclusively to the run. But if Virginia can run it, they can shrink the clock a little bit.
They go hurry up. Watford had the first down if he cuts inside, instead goes outside, and he's going to be a yard shy because Darius Robinson stopped him on the corner.
This is a place where 3rd and short, you've had some good run plays. What about a run action pass here? McGee's been able to work the middle of the field.
Parks the tailback. They need just under a yard. Clemson shows a 4-man front. Watford with rather a curious play. He let the running back go and then followed him into the same hole.
Well, and Clemson had a great call there. Brent Venables brought a corner blitz. They give Brent Venables all the credit on this one. Remember, we talked about the perfect blitz for Virginia a moment ago. That time Breland comes on the corner blitz, so there was an extra man. That was a read play by the quarterback. He kept it and never saw 17 coming off the corner.
Humphreys backpedals to the 28-yard line. Got a block. This kid can run. Humphreys up to down to the Virginia 45. A 27-yard punt return after a 52-yard boot.
Well, there was some hemming and hawing in the stands here at Virginia. The fans a little upset, especially after Georgia Tech last week, where they couldn't score inside the 5 at the end of the half. But inside run play, I don't mind the call. I really don't. I think that was just a wonderful call on the Clemson side to bring Breland and expect they may try the quarterback run there.
They stack the right side of the formation, send Watkins across it. And Taj Boyd going for the home run again. This one was overthrown. Bryant was beautifully covered by Draquan Hosky. Hosky actually was behind him and just would never let him get position.
And this is with a minute left in the first quarter, Taj Boyd's first incompletion. And if you're going to cover Sammy Watkins, you've got to be fast enough to run out of your shoes, apparently.
Clemson hustles to the line, trying to beat the Virginia defense. McDowell to the outside. Virginia swarmed to the ball. Eli Harold was lucky he had help out there because he tried to throw a shoulder block to knock the ball carrier down and missed him, but he got some help from his teammates. Brandon Phelps is the injured Virginia player.
Phelps lines up as a safety, and we already mentioned the 2 cornerbacks that are out for Virginia. Brandon Phelps on the bottom of that pile. Yeah, Harold's got to wrap up. Harold's got a hand injury, so he's wearing a little bit of a cast there, but he has got to wrap up there. And hard to tell what happened with Brandon Phelps. He was down on the ground. But Harold, you mentioned he tried to go in for that shoulder block, Mike. He's a guy, he's got a hand injury, so he's wearing a wrap, but he's got to finish that up. But this secondary for Virginia already down their 2 best corners. Maurice Kennedy clearly was their best corner, could blitz, could do different things. And so now a free safety out on 3rd and long for Virginia does not bode well.
And Demetrius Nicholson was the other corner. He was quite good, too. So John Tenuta really limited in what he can do in the secondary. Boyd back to throw, goes for the home run again into double coverage, and this one is picked off. It was intended for Watkins, but underthrown, and Anthony Harris just got his 6th interception playing center field.
Well, John Tenuta, the defensive coordinator, said as much as possible we were going to have high-low coverage on Sammy Watkins. Taj Boyd talked about eye discipline. He stayed on Watkins the entire time, and Anthony Harris, the healthy safety after Brandon Phelps goes off, read the eyes the whole way. He never once came off his drop. He never took his eyes off the quarterback, and the quarterback's eyes took the safety right to the ball.
Parks on a delay. We'll get up to about the 9. You know, as a quarterback with all the weapons that Taj Boyd has, if he sees, even though he's double covered, I don't mind throwing it to Sammy Watkins, but somebody else has got to be open if he's double covered.
And that's the thing, and we were talking to the coaches this week, and they talked about the eye discipline of Sammy or of Taj Boyd. If you're going to throw to Sammy, you have to at least make the safety think you're going to come down or pull him over to some other part of the field. Just didn't get that done.
Good ball game, 1 touchdown lead at the end of the first quarter.
Visit WatchESPN.com or download the Watch ESPN app to watch ESPN live anytime, anywhere. Brought to you by Vizio.
Welcome back to Charlottesville, 14-7. Clemson with the lead. But Virginia has the football after a pick. Watford has Harris behind him. On a roll, throws complete, got Darius Jennings. And then Jennings lost the football. That has been a problem for the Virginia receivers. One of the reasons Darius Jennings lost his starting job after an earlier game when they dropped so many balls, then played great last week.
And just, and had a wonderful move. Ended up working one-on-one on Robert Smith for Clemson. And not only picks up the first down, but maybe scoots down the sidelines another 15 or 20 yards because everybody else had been run off.
I mean, you're Virginia playing Clemson. You do not have a very big margin of error. 3-man rush. Down the middle, this one incomplete. A couple of big hits and a flag as Jake McGee was hit by 2 defenders. Travis Blanks was one of the guys who took a shot.
Yeah.
And let's check the penalty. Remember, if you call somebody for targeting, it's an ejection.
Yeah, Clemson had
Personal foul. 11 on the defense. 15 yards. Automatic. First down.
Oh, so they're only calling a personal foul. They are not calling a targeting penalty on Travis Blanks. So he is not ejected from the game. This is only an unnecessary roughness call, but that is targeting. By rule, by definition, Travis Blanks loads and launches into the head and neck area. Now,
I think the only argument you could make is he hit him in the back. He may not have gotten high enough. He certainly did the other things you said.
Go nice and slow here. Let's see. Back first. And you know what? I give the officials credit here because when I first saw this, it looked to me like targeting. But the first contact that Travis Blanks make is with his shoulder or elbow into the back of McGee. Now, he had the other parts of the rule. I thought he did load and launch. Here's the other part, too. Blanks did not drop his head. If Blanks had dropped his head and hit with the crown of the helmet, then that's the other targeting rule where you launch and hit with the crown of your helmet anywhere on the other player. That play was well adjudicated by the officials, and Blanks actually he didn't get lucky. That was the right call. I think that it was out of the realm of what you should do in the play, launching, but it was not targeting.
3rd and 9. Watford under pressure. Throws off balance and barely got it out of bounds. It was nearly picked off as Beasley was applying pressure.
And this is such a big deal. And, of course, Clemson lost Bashaud Breeland in the Florida State game. Didn't happen for the first half. There are two different rules. Targeting of a defensive player with contact initiated head or neck, or targeting of any opponent at any part of the body with the crown of the helmet. Now, that didn't happen on that play, but you can still call a personal foul if you feel like the hit was outside of a normal football hit.
Vosinalik with a terrible kick, but he's going to get a bounce. That thing never got higher than 10 feet off the ground and was a spinner. Actually goes 38 yards, so he got away with it.
You know, you go back to last week when Bashaud Breeland came in, and it was the Florida State game, and Bashaud Breeland 2 weeks ago, you see the head come down and launch and make the contact with the head. Breeland even admitted, he said, look, that's the targeting rule. I should have been out. But Breeland last week, after sitting on the sideline for the first half, came out, and the Clemson defense played really well in the second half. Breeland was the star of that game in the second half. So something Clemson is used to, but I give the officials credit not kicking Travis Blanks out of the game. That was not targeting.
Clemson from the 37, McDowell taken down at the 39-yard line as he stumbled and picks up only 2.
And this is such a big rule in college football. And I give Breeland a lot of credit. So many people have complained about it, but he said, I looked at it, that's the rule. I understand why I was ejected and missed the first half.
Now, he manned up on it, that's for sure. Tried to go to Watkins, and Harris was all over. Reached in there, slapped down with the right hand to make sure that Sammy Watkins was not going to catch that one.
We've mentioned the guys out in the secondary for Virginia. Tim Harris is getting a PhD today. Nice read. Did you see the read and react that time? He had his eyes right where they should be on the receiver. As soon as he broke, he made a nice break on the ball.
3rd and long for Clemson. Here comes the blitz. And they flush Boyd, and they got him. Pressure from the defense forced Taj Boyd to step up and try to run.
If there is a guy who should be the ACC Assistant Coach of the Year, I'm not sure it's not John Tenuta.
Yeah, I know who
the defensive coordinator at Virginia. So shorthanded and still able to put a plan together. They have a solid defensive front, even though they're missing Brent Urban, maybe their best player up there. But John Tenuta there, who always stands when he calls the game from the booth, doing a wonderful job.
They hope to get Urban back before the season is over, by the way. He is just an outstanding talent. Loose ball recovered at the 10. A loss of 5 as Tim Smith couldn't handle the punt and had to hustle to cover it. Tim Smith nearly with a huge mistake for the Cavaliers, but he got it back. Taj Boyd, a couple of his running backs talking over what might happen in the next series. Right now, the Clemson defense on the field try to challenge Watford. Watford had a big hole up the middle if he wanted to run, got a late start, and was taken down in the backfield.
He's got to know that against this type of front, he doesn't have this long to throw it. We're in slow motion a little bit here, but that pocket starts to go, and Watford just, he has to run. You have to know eventually, as long as those routes were and nothing open, you just have to take off, something they've been pushing this young quarterback to do more often.
Loss of 3, so it's 2nd and 13. Barnes is leveled as he got to the line of scrimmage. Big hit by Shuey, the young man out of Charlotte, North Carolina, graduate student who's been playing with a bad toe, a bad shoulder. He's just so smart. He's where he's supposed to be on every play.
And you know what? This is, when you watch the Clemson linebackers tackle, remember we saw on that kickoff where B.J. Goodson made that wonderful tackle with the head up, with the shoulder, wrapping up. That's really good discipline, great form, head up, leading with the shoulder.
Tough spot for Watford here. He has McGee in the backfield, wouldn't try to block. Unloads down the sideline, and it's going to be incomplete. And Brent Venables The defensive coordinator out on the field cheering on his troops, and play happened right in front of him.
And this Clemson defense, now they'll give up some yardage. You can run a little bit on them, and they've had a few breakdowns in their secondary. But you go back to last week against Maryland, when the offense was turning the ball over. There was 3 turnovers by Maryland that resulted in 6 points, 9 3-and-outs for Clemson on defense, and now a turnover, and then a bad offensive series for them on offense, and they've pinned Virginia both times and made them punt.
High, short kick. Fair catch made inside the 50-yard line. After the break, Taj Boyd leads the Clemson offense back onto the field in his home state of Virginia.
ESPN College Football, brought to you by Supercuts. Supercuts is all about cuts that rock. So come in now and rock the cut at Supercuts. And Chili's $20 dinner for 2.
You're looking at the work of the Center for Applied Biomechanics, a joint venture between Virginia School of Engineering and Applied Science, as well as UVA's School of Medicine. Of course, that was my major. I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to stop over.
It'd be a cool deal to wreck cars all day. I mean, I'm sure they're not in them. Yeah, well, I'm sure they don't wreck them all day. I'm sure they have special events where they wreck cars.
Clemson at the Virginia 45-yard line. McDowell, the tailback, and he'll get the carry. Tries to take it to the outside. Coley is there. Missed him. Got some help a couple of yards after that. Henry Coley, the middle linebacker, the leading tackler for this team, had him dead to rights for a loss of a yard. Virginia's been pretty good on 3rd down, especially this situation. They've blitzed a couple of times and made Boyd hurry. Straight 4-man rush this time, and the pass thrown incomplete, too high for Humphreys. He was open, and Boyd just missed him.
I think Boyd threw this ball, and I think it got on Humphreys a little sooner than he expected, but I also think the sun may have had something to do with this. The sun going down right behind Boyd's shoulder. The ball comes out a little, it's floating, but I think Humphreys had a hard time picking that up because the sun was right behind Boyd.
Boyd is only 2 out of 6 after an 8-for-8 start. This time Tim Smith able to make the catch. Coming up, looking ahead to the next level, we'll talk pro prospects in today's game with our draft expert Todd McShay. Taj Boyd has seen his offense turn it over again. This time with a punt, at least. And Virginia is back inside the 15-yard line. 1st and 10. Todd McShay, our draft guru, has joined us. We'll speak to him in 1 second. Watford on 1st and 10. Cavaliers trying to get the offense going again. And they'll hand it off to Khalid Shepard, who picks up a couple. Todd, quarterback is always the prime thing teams are looking for in the NFL or anywhere else. Where does Taj Boyd fit in right now?
Well, when you look at it, very strong class in terms of the depth this year, depending on how many of the underclassmen come out. Talking about a Marcus Mariota from Oregon, a Brett Hundley from UCLA is a possibility, Johnny Manziel from Texas A&M, and Louisville's Teddy Bridgewater. But there's also 6 or 7 other seniors that are in that 2nd, 3rd, 4th round range. I think Taj Boyd is right there in day 2. Certainly his size is not ideal. He has some trouble seeing everything from within the pocket, but I love his competitiveness. I love the way he plays the game. He's able to buy time and create outside the pocket and make a lot of difficult throws on the move. So he brings a lot of positive qualities to the table, and I think even in a deep class, he winds up somewhere, as I said, in the 2nd, 3rd round range.
Watford trying to keep possession of the ball, chased all the way back to the goal line, and just has to throw it away. How about Vic Beasley, that defensive end for Clemson, is one of the top sack artists in the country? What do you project him as?
Yeah, he can get off the ball, and if you can rush the passer, you can play at the next level. I'd like to see him come back for another year. I mean, he's in that 6'2", 230-pound range. 10 more pounds of size and strength, I think would really help his game, help him become an every down player. But you know, a lot of comparisons to Robert Mathis and that quick get-off, the ability to bend the edge. I think if he does come out at the end of this year, he's got a chance to be a second-round pick. But I think if he comes back next year and continues to develop, he could work his way into the first round in 2015.
Well, we have saved the best for last because Sammy Watkins, I thought 2 years ago as a freshman, was the best player in the country.
Right.
He looks like he's back to that level. How do you see him as a pro?
Like, I agree. I think he's the best wide receiving prospect in all of college football right now. And Marquise Lee obviously has had some struggles with durability this year, come in USC and looked great in last night's game. But Watkins, from the beginning of the season to now, I think has been the most complete receiver. I think it's going to be an interesting competition between those two, assuming they're both in this year's draft. You see some focus drops occasionally from Watkins, but he has strong hands. He's very competitive when the ball's in the air. And the thing that really separates him from a lot of other receivers is acceleration. As a vertical route runner and after the catch, his ability to accelerate and show that second gear is what makes him special and such a big play weapon. I think he's going to be in the top half of the first round. Like I said, has a good chance to be the first receiver off the board.
Todd, thank you so much. Really appreciate your insight. And everybody has their own opinions, but you're spot on with the stuff you talk about these players. You obviously have done all your homework. We thank you again for being with us.
And Virginia defensively all of a sudden making things difficult on Taj Boyd. Good coverage behind. There was a blitz coming on that play, but that was a breakdown in protection. And John Tenuta's bunch has Clemson on a third down, and they've already forced them off the field 4 times after 3 plays in this first half.
Another blitz coming. They have to go to the safety valve out in the flat. DJ Howard's got a lot of room to run, but not enough for a first down. There is not a blitz that John Tenuta hasn't seen. There is not a blitz he hasn't called in the game.
Well, and this was a blitz on Boyd. I'm not sure why you would need to blitz on that down, but it looked to me like Romero and Coley came, and that way the running back was wide open.
And Clemson showing that they're going to go for it on the plus side of the 50-yard line. And it's 4th and 3. Are they trying to get Virginia to jump? No, they're going to go for it. Pressure coming. The throw out into the flat. They're not going to get it. DJ Howard was out in the flat again in the middle. Linebacker Henry Coley was there. Holy cow, what a stand by the Cavaliers.
The swing pass, and you know this from all the years you've watched this game, is one of the tougher throws to make accurately. And this ball slightly behind the running back, DJ Howard. It's a difficult throw, and because Howard has to spin around to do it, he had half a step on Coley. And John Tenuta that time not bringing Coley on the block, and Coley able to get out with a little bit more speed and make that tackle. But that is a tough throw sometimes, but inaccuracy slowed down the running.
If that ball is thrown in the right place, he easily has the first down, but they didn't. Parks will get maybe 1. And some people in the crowd a little upset with the call. They don't like that inside run game. Although, what are you going to do? You know, if you're Virginia, you have to run your offense.
And you were mentioning that Parks is a guy who is at least productive. They don't have a lot of home run hitters. Steve Fairchild in his first year says, I just don't have a lot of speed guys, so I have to use the guys that are efficient. But it is time for Virginia offensively to start making some plays after the defense steps up. That's the 5th time that the defense has gotten them the ball back. And this time, the first time with really good field position.
Mizell is in there, and he will go on the end around to Darius Jennings, and Jennings is cut down. So the crowd's not going to like that call either. You have a standard run call up inside, and then what amounts to a reverse. If they don't work, nobody likes them.
Yeah, and I see what Virginia is trying to do is they just can't match the speed as Clemson. So trying to go one way, come back the other. But unfortunately for Virginia, every time their defense has given them the ball back, the Clemson defense has made things tough on them.
Big third down here after they forced Clemson to turn it over on downs. 3-man rush. Watford down the middle, way too high, and it's picked by J-Ron Curse. Curse finally forced out of bounds outside the 30. A 38-yard return as Watford just floated it down the middle. It seemed to no one in particular.
And Watford, a throw he made pretty well last week against Georgia Tech several times. Just a seam throw, which has to have a little bit, excuse me, that was, yeah, Jennings just came off of his route. I'm not quite sure what route Jennings was running, but the ball was thrown early. Certainly the quarterback and the receiver were not doing the same thing on that play for UVA.
So Clemson gets it right back and picks up a couple with McDowell up the middle. Both of these teams giving the other opportunities for big plays, and they're not converting after the breaks. Boyd, quick throw to Watkins, flanker screen. Makes the most of it. Gets down to the 23-yard line. Should be enough for a first down.
Excellent job that time defensively by Tim Harris. He goes up and tries to blow up the block. And watch Sammy Watkins runs right into the back of Jordan Leggett out there trying to get the block. But his acceleration, that's what Todd McShay was talking about, is just amazing after a dead stop.
McDowell moves the pile inside the 15.
Sammy Watkins' ability to, in 2 steps, be back to full speed, but also move his hips and make people miss. That play, the play before, should have been blown up for a 2-yard loss.
McDowell again, hit just as soon as he got the handoff by Eli Harold, who has spent a good portion of his season in the opponent's backfield. That's his 9th tackle for loss this year.
Harold does. It's so hard. He is unblocked, and Leggett, that kind of sneaky fullback, was late getting over there, but Harold got a good get off.
3rd and 6. Taj Boyd on the roll. Got it down to the 10. That's complete to Jordan Leggett.
Let me circle him.
The young tight end.
Watch Leggett. Here's that. They scored off of this almost exact same play last week against Maryland. And Leggett, a true freshman, starting to get into the mix. Chad Morris wanting some more productivity out of that position.
Taj Boyd drilled. I love Leggett. I love his honesty. Somebody asked him about his lack of playing time. He says, it's because I'm lazy. They can't trust me because of my practice habits. He even wanted a red shirt. There are very few guys who come in who want to redshirt. He was one of them.
Nice, starting to give him productivity. So
yes, he is. Harold tried to get up to block it. Instead, they got it to McDowell. Touchdown. Nice touch on that pass, just over the blitzing Harold. And McDowell takes it from Taj Boyd.
Not sure McDowell scored on this. It looked like his knee may have hit the ground. Good read by him, good blocking downfield. Well, from that angle,
I think he's over.
Yeah, it looks like he's over, but it'd have to be indisputable because the call on the field was a touchdown.
Boy, good throw that time by Taj Boyd. And Clemson makes Virginia pay for the interception. Of course, replay will look at this play again.
The ruling on the field on the previous play is that we have a touchdown. The previous play is under further review.
And any touchdown is automatically reviewed. This one is just going to take a little longer.
That wouldn't be indisputable right there. It looks like it's awfully close, but you cannot tell if when the knee hits, the ball has crossed the plane here. This is going to be, again, there's just nothing that tells you that that's not a touchdown. So nothing I have seen will.
This will be confirmed, don't you think?
Or sometimes if they think maybe it wasn't, they'll just say the play is upheld, not confirmed.
I'll go with confirmed.
Yeah. That one looks like the ball's over, so good answer by Clemson offensively. They're starting to look like they had.
Sure was.
had some struggles against Boston College. Obviously, a tough outing against Florida State.
After further review, the ruling on the field stands. Touchdown.
But for Dabo Swinney and last week against Maryland, when Maryland scored late to make it a real ball game, and Clemson came back and was able to score in the red zone, which they've been struggling in. So to get a little bit of a running game going, now you get McDowell involved in a screen game. You can start complementing what they know they have in Sammy Watkins and the ability of Boyd to run and throw.
Clemson touchdown drives haven't taken very long. A minute 27, 2:01, 2:12. Tigers up by 14 with 4:18 to go in the first half from Mr. Jefferson's University. Just 3 races left. We're in Fort Worth with NASCAR this week. 2 former champs, Jimmy Johnson and Matt Kenseth, tied atop the standings, plus Jeff Gordon closing in fast. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series rolls on in Texas tomorrow afternoon at 2 on ESPN, as well as live on Watch ESPN. Mizell will take a knee, and we go to Reese Davis.
Mike, it is time for an innovative look brought to you by AT&T, and I would caution Clemson fans to cover their eyes. Man under 2-deep zone against Jameis Winston and Florida State. Kelvin Benjamin's about 6'5", and he can elevate. So even if you have help coming, sometimes it's too late, and sometimes it doesn't matter. 10.5 feet in the air for the touchdown. This is what Miami will have to deal with on ABC against the Noles tonight.
It is quite a collection of athletes that Jimbo Fisher has put together down there. And have you ever seen number 3 against number 7, and it's a 3-touchdown. Number 7 is a 3-touchdown underdog. It's unheard of. Try to get the screen to Parks. Parks taken down at the 27. Here's Janine.
Well, Mike and Ed, we heard Mike London in his pregame speech telling his players they have to believe in themselves today, and that's what the offensive coaches have been reiterating. They've been saying, guys, you've got to believe every play, every series. Stay confident we can compete.
The old turf monster got Khalid Shepard on that one.
And that's tough. You know, you talked about the margin for error. That was well blocked. There was 4, 5, or 6 yards outside there. You get an unforced error falling down. But this is a group that has improved. And Steve Fairchild, I give him a lot of credit. He was very, very honest. Said we were just not good at all early in the year. But we've made incremental improvements. But the believe part and making some plays, that's what's got to turn the corner.
Cavaliers trying to keep the drive alive. All-out blitz coming by Clemson. And a good throw and a good catch by Keon Johnson from Watford. He was well covered by Breland, who was just all over him. But he's got that big frame, and he screened off the defender.
Johnson is listed at 6'3", 200. He looks a whole lot bigger,
doesn't he,
to me than that, and has good body control. This is a guy I'd look to more often.
Little swing, Jennings up to the 49. I mean, Johnson almost looks like he's a tight end.
He's a very, very big receiver. He's coming over to the left side, and Virginia going fast here. I like a little pace on this drive as the clock's burning down.
Draw play. Shepard lost the ball. The officials have made no signal yet. They're trying to determine if he was down before the ball came out.
J-Ron Curse, young man who already had the interception in the end zone last week against Maryland. And Curse, as he's spinning down the ball carrier in Shepard, out it comes. You know, we were talking to Dabo Swinney and then Brent Venables about some of these young defensive backs, and they both lit up talking about this young man, Curse. 6'4", 205 pounds, can move, has good feel for the game. They think the sky is the limit for him once he gets some experience. And another error for Virginia. That was a first down by yardage, and now they're giving the ball back with 2:43 left to Clemson.
And it was a first down at midfield. Boyd, plenty of time. Bryant into triple coverage.
This is just a dangerous throw. For a senior quarterback who's played as much as Boyd, there was nothing there for Martavis Bryant. You just have to come down, or because you can run, pull it down and run. But that was dangerous. Almost gave it right back to Virginia.
It's like the other one he threw for a pick. McDowell. First down and more. McDowell forced out of bounds near the 35-yard line. And when you look at the receivers that Taj Boyd has, I guess you could be lulled into that feeling that, hey, all I have to do is chuck it up there, they'll go get it.
Well, with Martavis Bryant, he does have some ability, and it kind of feels that way with Watkins occasionally, doesn't it?
Certainly does. Hopper gets the little swing.
And the tough part for Virginia is you're sitting there, you had something going, you had the ball at midfield, and offensively they just haven't been able to take advantage of Clemson giving them the ball back.
McDowell, little stutter step, picks up a couple inside the 25-yard line. Jake Snyder, the left defensive end, made the stop. Again, Virginia missing its best defensive lineman, Brent Urban. Has a high ankle sprain. He's missed a month, I guess. Miss a couple of more weeks. They hope to get him back before the season's over. Here comes the blitz. And now Boyd looks to the sideline.
That's what happens with a no huddle when you hurry up. You got plenty of time on the time clock to know what the defense is running.
McDowell against that blitz. Sidesteps a tackler. McDowell, touchdown. Anthony Harris missed him. Had him dead to rights at the line of scrimmage. If the blitz doesn't work, it's going to burn you, and it did that time.
Well, we saw a blitz on a rundown called by John Tenuta before, which was perfect. But you're right. When you take that second level and get rid of it, once McDowell broke through it, he's walking into the end zone.
Catanzaro's been perfect on PATs this year. Knocks another one through.
And then that was a wonderful second move. After making Anthony Harris miss, the bounce back in the side back to the inside to make Daquan Romero miss right there. So McDowell made two guys miss in about a 1 yard by 1 yard square. Good run. Nice block by the right guard Tyler Shatley as well. He drove defensive lineman David Dean all the way down into the pile to open up that hole.
So the Tigers have now opened it up against the Cavaliers. Virginia has had its opportunities here in the first half, Ed. They certainly can't say they haven't had shots.
It's been the problem all year. Offensively, they just don't quite have the speed at UVA to compete unless things go their way against a team like Clemson. But now with a minute 29 and 3 timeouts, I think you have to go fast here.
Flag down. We'll check it out in a minute.
Well, that was a little bit of a miss by Bradley Pinion, who is the punter.
He's a terrific kickoff guy.
Out of bounds.
So Virginia's going to get great field position after this kick. Let's go to Reese Davis.
Mike, Alexis halftime report is coming up. Michigan and Michigan State playing a nasty game in nasty weather. Michigan State driving right before the half. Todd Gurley came back for Georgia on this screen, has left the game and had 2 spectacular touchdowns before he went away. And we'll look ahead to the Miami and Florida State game on ABC tonight. Mark May and Lou Holtz join me. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
All right, Reese, thanks very much. Watford goes back to work, throws underneath to Taquan Mizell. Stephon Anthony, the middle linebacker, on the coverage. Virginia with pretty good chunk of time left, 1:17 and counting.
Got to be careful. You have these 3 timeouts. If you're short of the sticks, you've got to think about a timeout.
That pass was telegraphed for Keon Johnson, and Martin Jennings was all over it. And Watford never took his eyes off his receiver.
And this fan base watching very closely with Mike London about how they manage clock Now they manage the clock. This has been a problem sometimes, just working on the timeouts. And last week against Georgia Tech at the end of the half, they ran out of time trying to score a touchdown instead of kicking the field goal. And the fan base was a little upset, and there were some mistakes in that drive. So let's see how they handle this one.
Blitz coming. Watford hangs in the pocket. Throws late and incomplete. Closest man to it was Robert Smith, the free safety.
And now, because Virginia threw 2 incomplete passes in a row, and you've got 1:03 for Clemson with 3 timeouts. So I'm not saying those were the wrong calls for Virginia. You've got to continue to throw it. You've got to try to do it. But the problem is now you're giving the ball back to Clemson way too soon. You're already down 21.
No, it has nothing to do with play calling. It's the fact that they weren't executed properly, and they didn't succeed. Fair catch back at the 13-yard line. 55 seconds to go for Clemson. That's just about their average scoring drive the last 2 times they've had the ball. Boyd hit his first 8, is 16 for 21 overall. 2 touchdowns and a pick, just shy of 200 yards.
Well, let's see if Dabo Swinney, the former wide receiver in college, gets a little conservative here. You'd have to be a little concerned after that interception, the long throw into coverage by Taj Boyd. It's not their MO. They're very aggressive offensively. So I'll be surprised if they want to get out of here and try to get in there with 28-7. But be a little concerned because the quarterback's thrown in coverage a couple times.
Boyd with time out in the flat. That one's complete to Mike Williams.
And now the key, if you're Clemson, you know Virginia's going to be playing way off. They're going to give you 10, 15 yards. So you have to be patient enough. You have plenty of time to work mid-range routes and be ready if it's short of the sticks and people are running around to get that timeout.
They have all of their timeouts left. Another quickie hopper. Jermon makes his second catch of the ball game and gets out of bounds. So you're getting about 10 yards for every 5 seconds.
And everybody would love on the Virginia sideline if they had more of their secondary and the ability to play a little tighter here, but they just don't. So they're going to have to play off. And Clemson right now working the sideline brilliantly.
Boyd flushed. And Sammy Watkins comes up and makes the catch on the sideline.
He is something else. The coverage, Rio Walker is standing right here. But watch how Watkins goes. They talk about how he goes and takes the ball out of the air. See how he works back? His hands are so far out in front of him. It's been a long time since I've seen a guy who can catch the ball that far away from his body.
I mean, he gained a few yards. It's almost a meaningless play. And yet you sit here and shake your head because he is just so exceptionally good.
And now a good timeout for Clemson because you had them. Let's show you why this guy is so good with yards after the catch. We went back to a play against Maryland. This is just a simple screen play that they run a million times. We've talked about the good hands. Well, what that does when a guy can catch it, it allows him to keep his body closer to the ground so his feet can get back to the ground much more quickly. Now watch the first 6 steps that Sammy Watkins takes and how much ground he covers. Now let's go back and watch this full speed and how quickly he gets up to the secondary and starts running by and running over people. He really sensational. He's got great body control, good hands, and when he catches it, every step is gaining positive yardage.
38 yards after the catch today. He is just such a gifted talent. Boyd whistles one that time, complete to Williams.
And this is just wonderful play calling by Chad Morris. He knows that the safeties for Maryland have to be so far off. So that time he ran Adam Humphries underneath, which brought the cornerback in. And then they found number 7 Williams because the safety is just bailing.
That one's complete to Bryant. Bryant gets out of bounds.
What a catch by Bryant.
They've got some skill players, don't they?
Yeah, and a wonderful throw by Taj Boyd. He had into that first quarter and then into the second was having a little struggles, but now he seems to have found a rhythm. He's putting the ball right on the spot.
I mean, the guys that catch the ball away from their body with their hands, just perfect technique. Boyd slings this one to Humphreys. Humphreys fighting for yardage. He's down to the 1. This will stop the clock. 17 seconds to go. They still have 2 timeouts left.
And I really like that timeout there because the clock stops with the first down. And so you could run down there and run a play.
Clemson.
You could run down there and run a play if you want and be hurried or spike the ball. But with 17 seconds left, if you spike it, you're losing a play. You want to keep as many plays as you can.
Sure.
So because you came into this drive with 3 timeouts, you worked the sidelines as well as you did, and you only had to use 1. I love this timeout. Now, let's line up and figure if we throw it in the end zone, what's it going to take? A couple of seconds?
Did I mention that you take over inside your own 20, 55 seconds is plenty of time?
Well, their scoring drives are usually a minute and a half, but Boyd during this drive has just been on spot.
He's 6 out of 6. That was a perfect pass. Gone to 5 different receivers, hit Mike Williams twice.
And here's the thing, you can run the ball in this set of downs with that timeout.
Sure.
You do not have to get rid of the run. If it's short, then you just have to use that timeout.
Timeout. Timeout on the field, Virginia. This is their first charge timeout. This is a 30-second timeout.
And why not? Regroup on defense, use that timeout, try to set something up that you can stop Clemson, hopefully, for the Cavaliers defense.
Well, the first half for Clemson started out brilliantly when Taj Boyd hit Sammy Watkins, and you mentioned, Mike, how easy that looked, and get a little bit of the running game going with C.J. Davidson. Roderick McDowell gets into the act on a screenplay, then makes 2 guys miss against Virginia and takes it to the house. So the middle part there got a little slow. They started giving the ball back to Virginia, but it's been pretty good here in the back half of the second quarter.
17 seconds, 1 timeout. Boyd just walked in as Tyler Shatley cleaned house at the goal line. You see Boyd extend his hands to get the ball over the goal line and realized he didn't have to?
He was already in. Wonderful blocking up front. This is a inside run play, and you get the guard. The right guard pulls around a Taj Boyd, who has just, he really does have such a special feel for running the ball inside the 5-yard line, and they don't want him run him as much as they do, but he's their big back, so to speak, with that feel. And it was the entire left side of the line. Brandon Thomas just with a devastating block on the defensive end. Mike Moore and Shatley working once again on David Dean. Gets great push that you mentioned. And like that Sammy Watkins touchdown, that one looked a little easy.
Taj Boyd has now been responsible for 115 touchdowns in his ACC career. That breaks Philip Rivers' record. Touchdowns responsible for are either touchdowns thrown or touchdowns run for, and he has 115 in his career. He's also number 2 to the great Philip Rivers in total yardage and passing yards. Not going to catch him in those 2 categories, but it's nice to be on the list with that guy.
Well, they do play the Citadel later this year.
Well, then I'll change that statement. 13 seconds left, and another short kick taken by one of the up men, and it hasn't been that long since Virginia was in this game and had the ball only down 7 points, but that's what Clemson's offense can do to you. You turn your back and it's over.
It's unbelievable how many 3 and outs and the interception by Boyd, and then you look up and say, but they have 35 points in the first half.
Yes.
It's really wild how their speed changes the whole game.
Parks to the outside.
And I really do think teams like Clemson and Oregon that can get these level of athletes and play at this pace and spread the field, I really do feel like these offenses are changing the game and the way you have to think about possessions. I think you have to start thinking about this game more like basketball. When you're playing a team like Clemson, it's possessions, it's onside kicks, don't punt once you're past your own 40. They're just changing the game.
And that'll do it for the first half as Clemson explodes in the second quarter and takes the lead over the Cavaliers, who leave to lukewarm applause here at home. Dabo is with Janine.
Dabo, after a few frustrating series early, you guys are now up by 28 and in a rhythm. What's making that possible?
Well, we just cleaned up a few things, made a couple of adjustments, settled down, settled down in the run game. We had a couple of missed assignments where we had a big sack where we had a guy who didn't know the play. It helps when you know the play, so a little miscommunication. We got that cleaned up. We got the throwing game going. Hot Rod has made some really nice runs, but the biggest change in the game was defensively creating those 2 turnovers. The 2 turnovers, both by J-Ron, were huge, and we got some points off of both of them. But really, really proud of the 55-second drive. I mean, that was our offense at its best right there. So carry that momentum into the half, see if we can keep it going.
It's all about that. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Janine. At the half, our score: Clemson 35, Virginia 7. Now we'll send you to Reese Davis. He has the Lexus halftime report.
If it loses, still really in control of the ACC Coastal Division and we have a chance maybe to get a second shot at Florida State. Clemson's obviously rooting for Miami. They're taking care of their own business with Salmon 35-6.
Not everyone can pull off orange. Only the people who embrace what life has to offer. That's the Clemson family.
Here at Clemson, you really have to have this sense of determination, saying, look, I am committed to this. I want this to move forward. I'm going to continue to drive in that direction.
Everyone here at Clemson takes the time to ensure that your individual success is achieved.
People say there's something in these hills. It's so true. Nothing compares to Clemson.
This halftime report is presented by the all-new 2014 Lexus IS. It's your move.
Yards rushing courtesy of Spoonie. Roderick McDowell didn't go 93 and 94. He did go 25. Clemson has 35, and they're up easily.
Welcome back to the ACC on ESPN. Halftime here in Charlottesville, Virginia, where Clemson has a 35-7 lead over the Virginia Cavaliers. We had a pretty good ball game for a while. It was 14-7 at one point. Virginia had the ball. As announcers, you always want a close game, and then
yeah. And for Virginia, this second half is really about not throwing in the towel. They haven't done it yet this year.
That's right.
They have the players have really responded to Mike London's new staff. So this second half, I think, is much about David Watford trying to make some plays, see if they can make something happen defensively and get some turnovers. And they're just going to have to continue to build their depth here.
Virginia will get the ball to start the half. Mizell and Jennings are deep. There's a flag down. Clemson's going to be called for an offside on the kick. So do you make him kick it again or take the 5 yards?
Offside on the kicking team. A 5-yard penalty will be added to the touchback spot.
Here's Janine Edwards. Janine?
Well, Mike London just told me, I'm going to find out a lot about my guys now in this second half. We're going to see what they're made of. He said Clemson is a really, really good football team. He told his guys, hey, are you going to play for pride or are you just going to lay down? We're not quitters. He said, you've got to keep believing. Maybe we can't win this thing, but we've got to keep playing, and we've got to have pride, and we've got to never give up.
You know, Janine, I understand what a coach does and what he's saying, and you can agree with it in theory, but it's just really difficult for players, even at this level, to say, okay, we start the second half, it's nothing, let's go beat them in this half. Just mentally, it's tough.
And that is the huge challenge for Mike London. Of course, he's under a little bit of pressure here. Craig Littlepage, the athletic director, has come out and said he will be back. We have a plan here, but after last year, 4-8, made a huge overhaul in his coaching staff. Almost every position changed. 2 new coordinators came in, so they're just getting started in kind of version 2 of Mike London's coaching career here at Virginia.
Nice catch by Keon Johnson. This kid, a 6'3", 200-pound freshman, looks like a keeper. That's his 4th grab today. He just looks good in a uniform.
And if Mike London is going to get this program turned around, they're going to need a lot more guys like Keon Johnson. That's what they're trying to do with some of these younger guys, is get more depth.
Watford trying to get outside. There's a marker down.
Holding, number 20 on the offense. A 10-yard penalty. We'll replay the down.
And we had Oregon early in the year, David Watford, the quarterback, who played some in 2011 and then was redshirted last year. But this young man has, in my opinion, made really big steps as a quarterback. His accuracy is so much better than it was earlier in the season. He's still working on getting going in the run game because he can run, but starting to see a little more of that. So if you're going to look at a microcosm of has this team improved, I think if you look at number 5, the answer is yes.
This is Parks, cuts back, nothing doing. Last year, you mentioned quarterbacks. It was a strange year for quarterbacks here because they had Michael Rocco transferred to Richmond this season, and Phillips, Emma, he has since left to go to Winston-Salem State. So you elevate Watford, who was redshirted the year before. If you don't have stability at quarterback, it's very difficult to have stability in your offense.
And I think why a lot of fans here at UVA are a little restless and thought that it was mismanaged by Mike London and his staff. But with Steve Fairchild coming in as offensive coordinator, does feel this offense starting to get at least a little bit of a feel of what they can do.
Screen to Parks. Clemson with such overall team speed. They close so well on plays like that. And there's a marker down as well. Done a pretty good job keeping Beasley out of the backfield.
They sure have.
Clemson offside. Beasley, the defensive end, comes in #1 in the country with 10 sacks. Gotten close a couple of times, put some pressure on Watford, but can't get there, and they're only blocking them with 1 guy.
Offside. Defense. The penalty is declined.
So 3rd and long for the Cavaliers. And there's movement by Morgan Moses, their most prized offensive lineman.
False start. Offense number 78. It's a 5-yard penalty.
And I'm just trying to figure out why they decline a 2nd and 21 penalty. Now they're backed up again, but 2nd and 21, you'd get the 5, so you'd be at 2nd and 16 instead of 3rd and 12. You'd always take that penalty. So some of the game management stuff for UVA fans, it can get a little frustrating. And I think Mike London will be back, but they do have to start cleaning stuff like this up. You take the 2nd and 21. Or excuse me, 2nd and 16.
Parks, who was out as a wide receiver, gets the flanker screen, picks up a few, not nearly enough to get the first down, and they'll send on the punting unit.
But it's little decisions like that that have really upset some of the fans here at Virginia. We've heard some of the boos with some of the inside run plays, but those things And there is no reason to think, and the improvement that we've seen, I think that Mike London does deserve a chance to come back. He's got a brand new staff. They've invested a lot of money in the staff, but those types of things, those in-game management things, don't matter at 35-7. But as you get better and start to compete a little more, they will really matter.
Late fair catch signal made at the 8-yard line after a 44-yard kick by Daniel Rodriguez. And here's Janine.
Well, Mike and Ed, you know, at the beginning of the game, I told you 4 things that Taj Boyd told me that were most important to him today. He wanted to perfect his eye discipline and understand what he was seeing. And, of course, he did have that one miscue with the interception. But he wanted to focus on patience in the pocket. He also wanted to watch his body language and stay positive through good and bad. And I can tell you, in watching him on the sideline today, he has done that.
It's always good to accomplish your goals. That's a poor pass to Watkins. Picked it right off his shoe tops.
And the one thing, you know, when we were talking to Chad Morris, the offensive coordinator, talking about the have fun part, you go to the NFL and there is very little fun in the NFL. And he said, if you can't enjoy this, the college experience, what's next year going to be like for you?
No, you may have some fun at times, but it is a job. And now they try to get Boyd on the outside, and the 2 tackles, David Dean and Dante Wilkins, combined to bring him down for a loss.
And this is a line stunt mixed with a blitz for John Tenuta. And the offensive line was run blocking. Taj Boyd on most plays has a run pass option, but the offensive line completely missed the stunning defensive line of UVA.
Now they show blitz again, and Boyd looks to the sideline to get something else. Now he'll move his protection. Davidson. UVA comes with a late blitz anyway, and Boyd unloads. It's a foot race, and Sammy Watkins is there. That is the 2nd time he has outrun Tim Harris for a touchdown. 95 yards. Tim Harris, we have already seen some of the plays he's made in this game. He's a very talented freshman defensive back. But if you can't find the ball in the air and you're trying to play Sammy Watkins, good luck.
When Boyd loaded up for that throw, his body language had the feel of, oh boy, don't miss this one. I've got half a step with number 2, and he dropped it in nicely.
Taj Boyd is now thrown for 377 yards. Watkins just a plain hesitate and go. And he went. Welcome back to ESPN College Football, presented by Cars.com. You've just seen the 2nd longest pass play in Clemson history. Officially, it's 96 yards to Sammy Watkins.
Well, we showed you earlier when guys start peeking into the backfield in zone coverage. Tim Harris, the corner, got turned around, but you can see right here, he's still got 3 yards as he spins out. Now watch the first 3 steps when Sammy Watkins catches this ball. 1, 2, 3.
Zoom.
The acceleration, the very second he has the ball in his hands. It's in basketball, a guy who can rebound. They say he's a fast jumper. He just gets off the floor fast. Well, Sammy Watkins, unfortunately, for young Tim Harris, who he's going to learn a lot from this game. Harris is going to learn a ton from what he's had to do, but this guy is just different.
In the last 6 quarters that Sammy Watkins has played, plus a couple of minutes, he has 22 catches for 332 yards. That's a game and a half. 22 catches and 332 yards.
And you have to be realistic about a young man like this. He's going to go in the top half. I think once teams really start studying him, I think he's going to go into the top 10 and potentially the top 5. I think he is such a difference maker. Because of the way the game is changing, you could put him at a wildcat quarterback. He could run the ball potentially. There's a lot of things that you can do with this guy, but enjoy it while you can, because it's an awfully special player.
You know, I don't know what his, as this pass is complete to Mizell, I don't know what his stopwatch time is, but he's got football speed. Jerry Rice never showed top-end speed with a stopwatch, but on the football field, you give him the ball, it was over.
I think Sammy's going to have both. The football speed we know, I think his clock time's going to be just fine as well.
Mizell showing his ability as a pass receiver, has been pretty good out of the backfield.
And I really like this idea by Steve Fairchild at this point in the game, the offensive coordinator for Virginia. Mizell, you mentioned he was a 5-star recruit, the first one that this program's been able to get. They say he has really good speed. They want him to get a feel for the game. So Fairchild trying to find a way to get Mizell more involved in the offense. Honestly, taking a page out of what Clemson is doing with a guy like Sammy Watkins.
Exactly. Keon Johnson, the wide receiver. They've got Kyle Dawkins in the slot. And they'll give it to Parks. Big hole up the middle of Parks. 30, cuts back to the 23-yard line. Nice run by Kevin Parks, the junior from Salisbury, North Carolina. That was a gain of 27.
The one thing Parks can do, he may not have a top-end gear of Sammy Watkins, but watch the move at the end that he puts on Robert Smith. He has the ability to turn and make people miss. Parks does, and you were mentioning earlier about how Steve Fairchild says, I'm tired of hearing about what players can do. What can they do? And this Parks is a guy who just has such a good feel for how to set guys up, how to cut back. He's having a very productive afternoon.
Rotating a lot of wide receivers in and out of this lineup right now, searching for the right combination. McGee is back in. Kanan Severin, number 84, to the near side. Watford under pressure, rifles this one, and incomplete at the 9-yard line. Intended for McGee, went down to the turf, but couldn't get the ball.
McGee, who's been banged up all year long, dealing with a lot of different injuries, a shoulder, a hip, a knee. Well, you hope he would be able to make that play. The guy who you see as your go-to guy, had 2 game-winning catches last year against Miami and Penn State. You hope he'd go down and be able to make that play.
Watford down with 3rd and long, obvious 4-down territory for Virginia. Watford floats this one up. The receiver was bumped on his route, had no chance to get deep.
Well, that was excellent coverage that time by Clemson.
Corinne Wiggins.
Yeah, Wiggins, another one of those young defensive backs, starting to get a lot more run for Brent Venables. Coaching going on, giving the positioning. You know, a lot of times for a defensive back, it's where you line up and how you line up. Good coaching as young man comes off the field.
Now Virginia will attempt a 40-yard field goal. Vozenilik, who's had trouble from distance, has this one up and good. Longest field goal of the year for Alec Vozenilik. And it's 42-10. Clemson leads Virginia 42-10 behind Taj Boyd. Janine has more.
Well, Mike, you know, for whatever reason, Taj just haven't been having as much fun out there this season. He told me that last week. He said about 3 weeks ago, he was driving past a football field and he saw little kids running around playing ball. He pulled over, cracked his window because he didn't want to be seen, and he just sat and watched. And what struck him was the joy, the purity of playing the game without pressure. He said it reminded him of why he's playing football in the first place.
Hopper on the return, taken down at the 25. And Janine, that's why everybody plays sports when they're kids, because they love to play. The ones that don't love to play don't.
And it looks like Taj Boyd's done playing today, up 42-10. And certainly the game has changed with social media and all of the media, including us who cover these games, these young men playing quarterback. As Clemson comes in with a new quarterback, a lot of pressure on these young guys.
Cole Stout will get a chance to show his stuff here in the second half. Eli Harold will get the tackle on that play as he takes down Hopper. Cole Stout, no problem with accuracy. His problem is with lack of a chance.
And he's not the runner. Obviously, Taj Boyd is, so you see a little different offense with 18 in the game.
Has great bloodlines. His dad, Cliff.
And you know, it's funny.
NFL quarterback.
If this was 30 years ago and you turned on the game and Clemson was up 42-10 and was throwing the ball, you'd think, oh, this is crazy. Why are they doing that? But the game has changed. This is the offense that Clemson runs when Cole Stout's in the game. It's the second string. We've got to run what we run because they need work as well.
Pump fake by Stout, throws incomplete, may have been tipped, intended for Jamon Hopper, excuse me.
And now for Clemson, a chance to start getting some young guys some time, and I think it was that double clutch that allowed the defensive back for UVA, I believe, to come over and get a hand on that ball.
Tim Smith is deep. Standing inside his 30. Pinion to kick it away. Big rush by Virginia. They don't get there. And Smith is whacked after he returns for 6 yards.
Well, for Taj, for Taj Boyd, they had that little bit in the middle there, the middle of the first to probably the first third of the second, where he got off track a little bit, but then things got going really well. He's always been good running inside the 5, but then just uncorks one to Sammy Watkins, the last throw of the day for Boyd. Not a bad throw to end your career in your home state is it?
116 total touchdowns, first all-time in the ACC, second in passing touchdowns, passing yards, and overall yards, he's second.
You know, listen,
300 yards passing games as well, number 2.
Listen to Todd McShay break down Taj's NFL prospects. If that's where Taj ends up going, somewhere in that second day, if you're the first or second quarterback taken in the NFL draft, usually you're going to a bad team that really needs you and really needs you right away.
Yes.
I know it's a huge difference in the financial package you get, but being able to go to a team where maybe you can sit, you can learn the offense, you can learn that game, go a long way for a lot of guys.
That's a great point. There's a complete pass to Kanan Severin, and we'll check in with Janine.
Well, Mike, Taj Boyd and David Watford both grew up in the Hampton area of Virginia, and Watford said Boyd was the guy back then. They played against one another once in high school, and Boyd's team won. They've been friends ever since, and they just spoke on Tuesday. And Boyd told Watford, it's not easy being the quarterback of the team when they're not winning. He knows that these guys are frustrated, but he told Watford to stay upbeat and just keep being a leader.
Well, Janine, that recruiting ground that they're both from, the Hampton Roads area, which includes Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Hampton, has just produced so many players. Look at the quarterbacks that have come out of there and gone to ACC schools. And there are 23 players from that 757 area code on this Virginia roster, and they have perhaps supplanted Virginia Tech in their dominance of recruiting in that area.
Well, there's a lot of competition. Alabama goes in there. Obviously, they come in there and get some guys.
That ball may have been muffed as Rodriguez came up to take it. The ball got by him, recovered by Clemson.
Of course, Mike London is from that Tidewater area. His dad, a youth football coach in that area for the last 30 years, so knows a ton of the families from there, has a great reputation, taking care of young men, helping them get them education. And what he has to sell too is, you come to a place like Virginia, you're going to be challenged academically.
There is no foul on the play. The ball was touched by a kicking team member, so therefore it's just illegal touching. First down. Out on the
And you see it hit a Virginia player. So Clemson will take over, or Virginia will take over the 22-yard line. 42-10 Clemson. The Tigers will have the ball when we come back. Clemson will take over from its own 22, leading 42-10. Cole Stout is the quarterback. The running back, DJ Howard, the junior. Check it. That's Davidson who comes in, number 32.
Davidson, who had a touchdown run earlier, his 4th of the season. He's got good moves, good speed. See how much time he starts working in as the season goes down.
Great tackle by Kelvin Rainey, who came up from his safety spot. Hit him right in the shin and it wrapped up.
Boy, that looked bad, the way the leg bent there. What a bummer this would be for Clemson in a game that is essentially out of hand.
We'll check on the injury when we come back. 5:38 to go, third quarter. Davidson took a shot on his leg.
And watch the left leg as Davidson goes to plant. That's right when Rainey comes down and his helmet hits that left leg and tweaked it a bit, and they had to help Davidson off the field. And seems to be walking gingerly, but at least he is walking.
Second and 11 for Cole Stout. Play action fake. Had a receiver open and missed him. Mike Williams had cut toward the sideline and was open. Let's take a look at this week's BCS standings, brought to you by Tostitos and those 4 undefeated teams at the top.
And if you're a Clemson fan, you're thinking, what could happen above us to get into the national championship game?
Pressure coming on Stout. He's going to run and tripped up at the 48.
And crazier things have happened in the last year of the BCS. I think it is a long shot for Clemson to get into the final 2. But if you're Clemson, you get a win here. You get a week off to get ready to play an option team that you've struggled with. So you win that. You figure the easy win against Citadel. What you've got to root for is South Carolina to be sitting in position to go play for the SEC championship. Remember, South Carolina is still down 1 game to Missouri. So if you're a Clemson fan, become a South Carolina fan, root against Missouri. But if you got a huge quality win against South Carolina and then they went and played in the championship game and won against an Alabama, a lot of things have to happen above you. But that's the scenario where you'd have to say, well, wait a minute, does Clemson belong back in the conversation?
It would take a series of miracles, but we've seen almost every year where there is a series of miracles. We check in with Reese Davis.
All right, guys, Texas and Kansas Longhorns continue to be on a roll. The sack by Jeffco to Jake Heaps, and Chris Whaley, who scored on a pick 6 against Oklahoma, the former running back, goes in again as 28-6 Horns.
What a turnaround for Texas. I mean, left for dead. And they have become a factor. It's remarkable.
And became a bit of a laughingstock when Matt Brown elevated Greg Robinson to defensive coordinator after making a change earlier in the season. And of course, Greg Robinson had a disastrous run as the head coach at Syracuse, and then not a good run as a defensive coordinator at Michigan. Was a special assistant to Mac Brown, and the change mostly has come on the defensive side of the ball.
Here's Ron Cherry.
Personal foul, 78, offense. After the play was over, half the distance, second down.
That's our all-star candidate, Morgan Moses, called for the personal foul.
You can see the jersey being pulled on Corey Crawford. And as they take it into the sideline, I didn't see. I don't know how you call that a personal foul. Looked like two guys tussling to me.
Watford has Mizell behind him on 2nd and a mile. What a play and what a catch by Keon Johnson. He was tied up by Breland, and now they're going to say no catch. But watch him get rid of Breland.
This is a really good physical receiver, isn't it? Watch the ball. How's that not a catch? Well, I would certainly hope that they review that, because from what I saw, that looked, unless I missed the ball moving as Johnson was going down, that looked like a catch. I'm surprised. I'll be shocked if they don't beat this and stop this. There's a rule of competitive effect. They're stopping it now where you say, does this really impact the outcome of the game? Well, we're in the 3rd quarter. I know Virginia's down 32. But I think you should review this one.
I agree.
And give a chance to a young man who I think just made a really good catch. Oh, there goes the ball. There it is. Yep.
The ruling on the field on the previous play is that the pass was incomplete. The previous play is on the
Yeah, watch the ball roll forward. Watch the laces and watch the ball roll forward, and he loses control of the ball as it hits the ground. So through the catch, you have to have control of the ball. And to me, the question becomes, if the ground wasn't there to help him finish the catch, would he have made it? And I think the answer is no. So actually a really good call. You know, it's amazing when we watch these things frame by frame in high definition.
That's right. How
many calls the officials in this game get right?
Yeah.
If you've ever been down on a field, you know, we were talking earlier about the eye discipline of Taj Boyd, and we always hear, keep your eyes for safeties. If don't chase a ghost, don't see something that's not there. You have to work so hard as an official on your eye discipline to know where to look, to know what to anticipate. And it really is amazing how many calls these guys get right, because if you're ever down on the field in a football game, just go watch the action and see how fast it is.
So the offense comes back out on 3rd and 17 for the Cavaliers. Watford throws wide, intended for Tim Smith, and they'll have to kick it away.
Well, I've seen enough of Jaron Kearse, number 20, from Clemson, to start putting a tag on this guy. Watch the blitz from the outside. And just has, he's one of those guys who just has the ability. Mizell goes to block him low. You'd want the running back's head on the inside of the guy who's rushing, but Kearse just has that ability. He has that slippery body, has good body control.
Humphreys does not fair catch this one. Takes it out to the 39-yard line. Excuse me, Rodriguez. We'll check in with Janine.
Well, Mike, what do Percy Harvin, Justin Hunter, and Taj Boyd have in common with these guys? These are the Virginia Beach Mustangs, and this is the Pop Warner team that Taj Boyd played on. They made the 2-hour drive up here from Virginia Beach to see not only Taj Boyd, but to see Eli Harold and Kyle Dawkins, who play for Virginia. And considering that this is Taj Boyd's last college game in his home state, I would say that this was an opportunity these guys could not let them pass by.
Be something they will remember for the rest of their lives. Certainly Jordan Leggett makes that catch, upended by Rio Walker.
And the thing for Clemson, as you kind of pay forward what they're trying to do with this program, and they've said very clearly, we want to try to get Clemson in the top 5 every year. If you can get guys out of that Tidewater area and they can do well for you, you keep going back in and getting some of those guys. There is plenty of talent.
I think the first thing Dabo Swinney did when he took over was say, why can't we recruit certain players in certain areas? We should be able to recruit anybody anywhere, and he's done it.
Clemson has such a strong brand. It's a national football brand. And so you look around, and they are so well situated, as close as they are to Atlanta and the state of Georgia.
Stop, quarterback draw.
And earlier in the year, as Clemson went on their run and everyone started saying, oh, are they going to stub their toe, or are they going to do what we're used to seeing Clemson do, where they lose a game after you think they should win? But you start to see the consistency of this. And I really do, going back and looking at that Florida State game, I really thought that was an aberration. I thought Taj Boyd just got off to a bad start. Things got sidetracked. I'm not sure if they beat them 5 out of 5 times if they play 10, Florida State versus Clemson this year, but the consistency with which they're starting to be competitive and win games. Remember that LSU game in the bowl game was monster for this program.
Stout throws complete to Leggett. Certainly Florida State would argue, as much as they dominated that game, this 10-game series would not be 5-5.
Well, and Dabo Swinney got a little heat when he said, well, we'd split it 5-5. But if Clemson played as well as they did in that game against Georgia, I'd like to see that game.
Then it could be.
Yeah, I'd like to see that game.
Stout pump fake. Leggett. And broken up at the last minute. Leggett had a step, but it was broken up by Kelvin Rainey. And now we'll check the penalty.
Having an illegal formation. Offense. It's number 79 is lined up in the backfield.
Well, he doesn't look like a running back, and that's because he's not. He's the left tackle, Isaiah Battle, who was too far off the ball. He's going against Eli Harold. So you've got a young guy in Battle getting some time going against the fastest pass rusher from Virginia. So how do you beat somebody with speed? Back away from them a little bit. Well, you can only back away so far because your helmet for the offensive lineman still has to break the backside of the center for you to be on the line of scrimmage.
Tackles will cheat an inch at a time to get back as far as they can.
The offensive line starts looking like a V instead of a straight line.
2nd and 10. Blitz coming. Stout runs away from pressure and forced out of bounds near the 15.
But the one thing that for Clemson and their march to build a team that sits in the top 10 every year, and I think they're getting right into that level with the amount of recruits they're able to get, but the competition for talent in and around them, both in the ACC and the SEC, is just so intense.
This one in and out of the hands of Clemson receiver J.J. McCullough, big tight end out of Fort Mill, South Carolina. Right now, he's about 5th on the tight end depth chart. Ammon Lacob will come on to try a field goal. And it's no good. Lacob getting some work, and as they rest Chandler Catanzaro. And here's Reese Davis. Reese?
All right, Mike, sometimes one play can turn a game completely around. Florida gets a touchdown run here from Matt Brown. He goes in. This came after a backwards pass that Georgia thought was incomplete, and Florida recovered it, 23-10.
Always a great game there. So after the missed field goal, Virginia will take over. Parks, another big hole off the left side. And Parks up to the 27. Undefeated ACC opponents reignite a classic rivalry on ABC Saturday Night Football tonight. Sophomore running back Duke Johnson and the U up against freshman sensation Jameis Winston and number 3 Florida State. Saturday Night Football presented by the new windows tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC. I am just so struck every time I see a highlight of Florida State. The life-fast bodies of the Seminoles.
And Florida State starting to look like when Bobby Bowden first brought Florida State into this league. Remember that run that Florida State was on there in the 90s?
Yes, sir.
And they were undefeated in this conference, but they lost their first game here. And when you look back at those Florida State teams and how well they ran and how aggressive they were on defense, I agree. You're starting to feel like Jimbo Fisher, who, a lot like Dabo Swinney, has a real plan and a thought for all of the things across the whole program to get yourself into that top 10 and stay there.
He has had 3 straight remarkable recruiting years.
And you know, I think one of the problems for the ACC, quite frankly, is your 2 best football schools historically, Clemson and Florida State. You could say Virginia Tech's in there, and maybe if Miami can continue to come back, they're in the same division. And anytime you have, it really does. Because now you've got the 2 best teams, and it looks like even though Clemson's going to lose a bunch of guys going into next year, you've got to figure they're still going to be in that top 15 or top 10 to start the season. But with those 2 great teams in the same division, not having a championship with the 2 best teams, it hurts you.
That's the end of the 3rd quarter here in Charlottesville. Clemson in total control as the Tigers lead the Cavaliers 45-10.
Visit WatchESPN.com or download the Watch ESPN app to watch ESPN live anytime, anywhere. Brought to you by Vizio.
Welcome back to Charlottesville, where Clemson has assumed complete control, 42-10.
Looks like those 2 guys are done for the day, doesn't it?
I would think so. Sammy Watkins certainly had, he and Taj Boyd had about as good a 2.5 quarters as you could have. A couple of yards on that play. Now for today's Aflac trivia question. Who is the only team to defeat Florida State and Miami on the road in the same season? Boy, that's a good question. I have no idea.
Well, you've got to assume that it's someone on the field today, because why would you ask that question at a Virginia,
either Clemson or Virginia.
I'm figuring out the method to our madness.
I just figured out the madness part. 4-man rush. Watford hangs in the pocket and throws incomplete, intended for Dominique Terrell, who has seen his playing time decrease as the season has worn along. He was in the starting lineup when we saw them earlier against Oregon. Vazetalik comes on to kick. Daniel Rodriguez, the Army hero who served in Afghanistan, makes the fair catch. Now for the answer to our Aflac trivia question, which was who was the only team to defeat Florida State and Miami on the road in the same season? And you were right. It was one of these 2 teams, Virginia in 2011. They beat Florida State by 1. They beat Miami by 7.
A lot of people forget after a really tough 2012, Virginia played for the ACC championship in 2011. Had a lot of breaks go their way, but you still won 8, went to the championship.
2 years ago, the Cavs were at Florida State, which has been the high point of Mike London's regime so far. Under a minute 30 left in the game, Parks ran for a touchdown, put the Cavs up by 1. The Seminoles got into field goal range, but Dustin Hopkins missed a 43-yarder, and that was the final. Virginia with a win. And how many times in Florida State's history has wide left or wide right been a part?
Big time. And of course, Mike London, after last year's debacle where they slid to 4 wins, went during the offseason, made huge changes on his staff, most notably at the coordinator spots, bringing in Steve Fairchild and John Tenuta.
Clemson on the flanker screen.
And I'll be honest, coming into this week, we'd seen Virginia earlier in the season. There's a look at John Tenuta. We'd seen Virginia early in the year against Oregon, and then seen the progression of their season. I was starting to lean towards the Virginia fans, the boisterous ones, saying that a change needs to be made. But honestly, after spending yesterday studying this team, watching them on the coach's film, where you really get a true sense of a team, there was improvement, especially at the quarterback position. And this is the second time I've come away with meetings with their coaching staff saying that's a group that knows what they're doing, especially John Tenuta, Steve Fairchild. And I think after just one season here, I think it would be completely unfair to make a change here at Virginia. With the changes that they've made, they're not there talent-wise. Let's just be honest about that. But this team has improved, and I think you have to give Mike London at least one more or maybe even 2 more years.
The athletic director here at Virginia, Craig Littlepage, was kind enough to come up and talk to us before the game. And of course, the bottom line is winning football games. That's why you have a program. You want to win. And Chad Kelly now into the ball game. Jim's son, or Jim's nephew, gets on the quarterback draw. He had only rushed 6 times for 37 yards. This year he goes 38 on this one. It's in the genes.
Well, his uncle wasn't much of a runner.
A pretty good quarterback.
Yeah. But coaches talk about this young man. He is a very good runner. They said he is almost nasty. He's so competitive. He's not quite to that level, but just a very competitive young man.
Well, back to Craig Littlepage for a second. Of course, you want to win games, and you want sellouts, which they're not getting. The attendance is declining. He said, but that's only part of it. We knew it would be a process when we brought him on board. We're happy with where the process is because we see the improvement in the program. So that's what they're banking on. The process will continue to go forward, and the results will start to show. Unfortunately, they're not showing today for the Cavaliers. All they've been doing since the middle of the second quarter is celebrating on that Clemson sideline. Now they're up 49-10 over the Cavaliers. This will be their 8th victory to go with that one loss to Florida State. Mizell runs up on it at the 6. And takes it to the 21. Reese Davis has an update. Reese?
Mike, Michigan State is turning in a splendid defensive performance and finally getting just enough offense. Connor Cook gets one to Benny Fowler. That was a big conversion on 3rd and 12. And from there, Sparty punches it in with their quarterback barely. Michigan's got by, I think, minus 1,000 yards rushing. They've been sacked 422 times. Navy just scored to take the lead on Notre Dame. Less than 9 minutes to go. Midshipmen up 34-31.
Isn't that something? Just the fact that they have the lead in the 4th quarter is remarkable. Both ways. Grayson Lambert is the new quarterback. It's a redshirt freshman out of Jessup, Georgia.
Battled David Watford all the way through camp to see who was going to get the starting job. So Lambert gets to get a little time against the second stringers from Clemson, although Clemson still has some of their first-string defensive, well, at least the rotational guys in there, so he'll get a pretty good look.
Lambert comes up with a low snap, throws, and it's incomplete. There's a pass that should have been caught again by Jake McGee. That's his 2nd drop.
Well, one of the things that has to happen is an upgrade, especially with some of the speed receivers. Well, UVA is the only school in the country that has 2 top 10 players in the ESPN 300 rank committed to this class. And in talking to Coach London yesterday about the hot seat he's on, the speculation about his job. Now, he can't mention those guys by name, but one of those 2 guys called just this week to say, Coach, we believe in what you're doing, and we're still committed to your program. And that's the key. I think Mike London's coming back next year. Next year is the year. That's the 5th year You've been here for 5. You've got to start showing that the recruiting that you're doing, his inroads to his hometown in that Hampton Roads area in southeastern Virginia, have got to start showing that Watford has a few more guys to throw for. And if you're not in a bowl game next year, then I think that Virginia is going to have to start saying, well, wait a minute, we've got to start closing the gap with some of these other schools in our conference.
Well, because last year was 4-8. Right now they only have 2 victories. They're obviously not going to win this one, and Rodriguez has his face mask grabbed, nearly had his helmet torn off after an 8-yard return.
And if you're Virginia, Virginia has always been very patient with their coaches, and so that's another reason why you just...
We have a personal foul, face mask, kicking team number 17, 15 yards, automatic, first down.
But you just don't expect Virginia to make a change.
No.
After just 4 years.
They are the antithesis of you've got to win right now as soon as you show up. 49-10, back after this.
ESPN College Football is presented by Cars.com. Get the right car without all the drama. Cars.com, all drive, no drama. And in part by Mercedes-Benz and the all-new CLA.
Welcome back to Charlottesville, where Clemson is well on its way to its 8th victory of the year. They're up 49-10, still 11:07 to go in this ball game, and we check in with Janine Edwards.
Well, Mike, I want you to keep your eyes on number 83, Dan Rodriguez, while Clemson has the ball for this series, because I'm hearing that they may try to get him a touchdown, the first touchdown of his career. Let's not forget that he is an Afghanistan military veteran. He's got a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart for bravery and for wounds suffered in battle in Afghanistan, and he's got about 40 friends and family here behind me, because Daniel is from Stafford, Virginia, and they have all made the trip up here to see him play today, and I'm hearing the team would really love to see him get to the end zone.
Boy, wouldn't that be spectacular? Kelly, you know, one thing, after doing the things he did in the military, he's not going to be intimidated by college football.
No. Worked his way all the way up to sergeant, spent a year in Afghanistan, did multiple tours in and out of Iraq. It's no wonder that his teammates would love to see him score.
Had the honor of carrying the flag down the hill in a game we did last year, which was really neat.
Jordan Leggett wondering how the holding call wasn't made, as the Virginia linebacker Zach Bradshaw spun him around, holding on.
Kelly, the 3rd Clemson quarterback, has DJ Howard as his tailback, 7 yards deep. And Kelly takes off again. Stumbles forward to the 24.
But did you see that little sidestep there
Yes.
when the rush came through? As more flags are going down.
Flags down in the secondary.
That looked like Rodriguez and Brandon Phelps maybe got into it a little bit. But you pay this thing forward into next season, and you say who's going to be the quarterback, and that Chad Morris likes to run a quarterback if he can. He does have a lot of quarterback runs in his offense. So let's see Chad Kelly getting some time here, and then you'll go into spring going head-to-head with Cole Stout. It'll be a nice competition.
We have offsetting unsportsmanlike conduct against both teams. The penalties will not be stepped off.
I mean, certainly we saw Stout. He's not going to scare anybody to death, but he's not immobile.
No. Well, you got to be careful.
Yeah.
But boy, Brandon Phelps, you know, they review these things. That looked like an open hand to the face, but Brandon Phelps very close to being called for a punch and thrown out of this game. It's one thing to hit each other in the chest, but when you go up to the head or the face, UVA's very lucky that this was offsetting. Brandon Phelps wasn't thrown out of the game.
Virginia shows blitz. They come after Kelly. He throws complete to Jordan Leggett.
You were telling that story earlier about Leggett saying, well,
he's hilarious.
But when you see this guy in space as big as he is, you can see why Clemson wants to start working 16 into the game. I think this is one of those talents at that position that Clemson's used to having. And they're just going to try to keep working it in games and get that work ethic along with it.
Yeah. Somebody admits they're lazy and they can't be trusted at practice because they don't have the work ethic. I mean, you got to admire that. At least he's being honest.
He's got some ability.
I mean, I admire it. I don't think a coach is going to be real happy.
Know your strengths, know your weaknesses, Mike.
Yes. 2nd and 12.
But you know, coaches, if you've got a guy with this size and this body ability, you're going to figure out a way to get him reliable.
You bet. Kelly throws to the outside, threw it behind Hopper. It'll bring up a 3rd and 12 for Jim's nephew. Kelly on the keeper, nowhere to go. And he's taken down near the 25-yard line. DJ Hill with a good play. Rodriguez at the sideline. He's not going to get a shot at this one.
Yeah, Clemson's 8:40 and counting. They'll get the ball back.
Lacob will try again. He missed his first opportunity. Drills that one through. And Clemson has extended its lead to 39 points here at Charlottesville. Welcome back to Charlottesville. Only 3 races left. NASCAR goes to Fort Worth this weekend. 2 former champs, Jimmy Johnson and Matt Kenseth, are tied on top of the standings, and Jeff Gordon is closing fast. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series rolls on in Texas tomorrow afternoon at 2 on ESPN, as well as live on Watch ESPN. 52-10. Clemson with the lead. Another kickoff out of bounds. Let's check in with Janine Edwards. Janine, what do you have?
Well, Mike and Ed, you know, Thursday was Halloween. So what did David Watford and Anthony Harris and several of their teammates do? They went and watched the Virginia women's soccer team finish their regular season at 19-0. The Lady Who's are #1 in the nation. And they're the only undefeated team in the nation in men's or women's soccer. Coach Steve Swanson told me his veteran group just is clicking because they all understand their roles. They've got a high-paced attack. And he said they're just executing to perfection. You know, the Lady Who's have never won a national championship, but my sideline assistant today, Caroline Miller, is a former All-American for them. She says this is their year.
Got to be pretty cool to be #1 and pretty supportive of the football team as well to go watch that game and share the enjoyment. Grayson Lambert with the carry for Virginia. 6'5", 220. And he replaced Watford.
David Watford, of course, the regular starter for Virginia all season long and has shown improvement. But as the season goes on, if you're able to get guys some time and see maybe what Lambert can do under game conditions, some guys play quite different.
That one is too high, intended for Zach Swanson.
I was saying some guys just can play so much better. Some guys are better in practice than they are in games. Some guys are just way better in games. You know, you're talking about Leggett from Clemson.
Absolutely.
There's nothing that shows you he isn't intense and playing every play. Some guys, they just kind of need the bright lights to really care enough, or just that's the focus they need to get them to the top of their game. Third and 6.
Clemson 4-man rush got there enough to force Lambert to throw it into the ground.
It's a true freshman working at right tackle. Sadiq Olaranriwaja at right tackle, working against number 90, Shaq Lawson. And Lawson does a good job of dipping underneath the true freshman. And Lawson, that's true freshman versus true freshman for these two squads.
And these are important plays for guys who are second and third team and getting a chance.
Huge.
You work so hard in practice, you give so much of yourself. To have it pay off in actual playing time is a joy for them.
And to get real critiques from your coaches in a situation where something mattered.
College football continues tonight on ESPN. Freshman quarterback Matty Mock and number 9 Missouri trying to bounce back at home against Butch Jones' Tennessee team, battling to go to a bowl game. College football primetime presented by Hampton Hotels tonight at 7 on ESPN, also live on Watch ESPN. And we'll check in with Reese Davis. Reese?
Mike, this Florida-Georgia game, Georgia once had a 23-3 lead. Tyler Murphy keeping it and scoring. Georgia just went for it on 4th and 1 in their own end, and Gurley was stopped short. Gators down 3, and they have the ball back. Whole bunch of time left.
All right, Reese, thanks very much. Clemson football. Kelly takes off. Breaks a couple of tackles, runs over another tackler, gets out across the 30-yard line.
Taj Boyd getting in on the signaling effort. Nice to see him still involved, working with the younger guys. He's a very bright guy. The coaches talk about Taj Boyd, and just a really bright, good thinker. So it's a nice opportunity for him to get some coaching in.
Kelly throws on a post, complete up to the 49-yard line.
I think the Kelly versus Stout competition is going to come down to, looks to me like Stout a little better thrower than Kelly. Kelly a little better runner. It's going to be really interesting to see how this quarterback competition sorts itself out going into 2014.
Wes Forbush made that last catch, and now Howard with a chance to run the ball. Stopped about a yard behind the line of scrimmage.
And the bad news for either of these guys, I'm not sure that Sammy Watkins will be back in a Clemson jersey next year.
I'd be surprised, wouldn't you?
Well, it's just so hard to advise a young man who's going to go that high in the draft.
I mean, consider his circumstances and the difficult upbringing he had where they had to live in South Fort Myers. You'd like to think he could find a way to come back, but it's hard to imagine.
The operation part of the game in a real game situation is really key for a guy who spent most of the season as third string.
Right.
Because even when you do live drills where you have to hear from the coach and everything, if you're third string, you're usually standing next to the coach, not out playing even in practice.
Kelly with a little swing. Good defensive play there to really shut down any chance of that play being a success. Hosky came up from the corner to make the tackle on Howard, and Clemson will kick it away.
And unfortunately for UVA, this loss drops them below bowl eligibility. So for the second year in a row, Mike London won't be able to take his team to a bowl. And with a young team, 55 players of this team are freshmen and sophomores. The problem is you get 15 practices for a bowl game. When you have a young team, it helps recruiting because you have high profile. You're on TV during the holidays, but a lot of coaches say the biggest thing you miss in a bowl game is exactly another spring practice.
That's right.
Before you have your spring practice.
It's huge for building a program. Let's take a look at our Discover Card game changer, Ed.
Well, with about midway through the second quarter, the score 14-7, Clemson. David Watford makes not a good throw. Not quite sure. During that route, we weren't sure. The quarterback was wrong. The route was wrong and running properly. But Jaron Kearse comes up with the first of 2 turnovers today. He forced a fumble as well. But from that point forward, it was 14-7. For the rest of the half, it was 21-0 Clemson, and they just blew the doors, going 35-7 at the half after that big game changer by Curse.
If you're Virginia and you play somebody as good as Clemson, you end up holding your breath a lot, just waiting for the hammer to come down.
And there were a few times in the first half, especially Clemson had 6 drives in that first half where they were 3 plays and out, including the interception by Boyd, which was thrown on the 3rd play of that drive. But unfortunately for Virginia, 3 of those, they got the ball inside their own 15-yard line and just weren't able to take advantage of that.
Mizell is the tailback. The 5-star recruit, and that's a broken play. Lambert has to eat it and get swarmed under. Undefeated ACC foes will reignite what used to be a classic rivalry on ABC Saturday Night Football. Duke Johnson, number 7 Miami, against Jameis Winston and number 3 Florida State. Saturday Night Football presented by the new Windows tonight at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC. A much anticipated game, and it's remarkable that Jameis Winston has shown the maturity that he has all year long. Here's an interception for the Clemson Tigers. Corinne Wiggins picks it off, his 2nd pick, and he returns it for 14 yards. There was a lot of pressure on Lambert. He was getting sandwiched just as he threw.
Lambert did the best job he could trying to stand in here, but as he is getting hit, his body seems to contort just a little bit, not able, was hit. His lower body was knocked out from underneath of him right as he was making this throw, and you can see with no base, the ball comes out wobbly and slow, and there's another one of those true freshmen in the secondary stepping up for Clemson.
Well, here's an opportunity to get Daniel Rodriguez the football, the young man who served in Afghanistan and earned a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star there. A true American hero. Can they get him the football on a passing play? Instead, they run with Howard, and Howard dives for the end zone. Touchdown.
DJ Howard, the ball carrier, for the Clemson touchdown.
If you're on the losing end of one of these, you didn't lose much at Washington.
It didn't start out great, but it got better. Well, the hard part for Virginia, and they have, this coaching staff has not lost this team, is now you're sitting there, you don't have a bowl game to play for anymore. You've got guys banged up. Your secondary has at least 2 of the best players out. And the hard part, the real job for Mike London and his staff is if they can continue to make the tiny little improvements that they've been making. They have been improving. They just don't quite have the talent necessary to compete against Clemson. And North Carolina, who struggled a little bit. Miami, Florida, who haven't. Miami at that number 7, that's a soft number 7 to me if you look at the schedule getting here. And I think that's why Florida State is such a big favorite tonight. But then, of course, Virginia Tech, who looks improved over last year, although a huge loss today for the Hokies against Boston College that may have knocked them out of the Coastal Division race in the ACC. But it's being able to, can you hold these guys together? Can you continue to improve? Get to your offseason. It looks like recruiting's going well. Get into spring ball and see if you can't come out next year and be just a touch more competitive and start looking towards getting the bowl games again.
Mizell is deep as the count rises to 59-10. Mizell from the 6. Showing some of that speed, crosses the 35 to the 36. 31-yard return. Going to be some tremendous players that we can watch tonight. Tennessee, Missouri, Michael Sam. Jameis Winston is the kid that's just so fascinating right now as Florida State will take on Miami. And at 9 o'clock on ESPN2, the reigning Heisman winner, Johnny Manziel, who in most people's polls is number 3 in this year's running.
I'm not so sure if a lot of the off the field, what felt like some selfish behavior by Johnny Manziel may not be affecting that, because if you've watched him play, I think he actually might be better than he was last season.
It has to affect people's perception, but this kid, he has done absolutely nothing wrong. He is a freshman. He's got all the confidence in the world, and he is a leader on a veteran team. They listen to this kid, and he has led them to this point.
And I think Florida State's going to do just about what they did to Clemson. I think that the experts who have decided what that spread is, I think you're right. I think Florida State beats Miami pretty handily tonight.
Mizell shakes an arm tackle and then taken down. He is certainly the future of their running game. Hasn't been able to get untracked yet this year. Miami and Florida State, that's on ABC. Virginia Tech, Miami will face them on November 9th. Georgia Tech and Clemson on ESPN. Miami will face Duke on November 6th.
And it sounds crazy that you'd have Miami-Duke as an important game.
Yes.
But everybody in the Coastal, except for Miami, now with 2 losses. Duke sitting with 2 losses. If they could continue to win, if Miami loses tonight and Duke beats them, said last week, how crazy would it be? Boy,
what
Virginia's
a great
found a
catch
play,
that was. Keon Johnson. I mean, he's going to be special.
Yeah.
That's his 5th catch. He just looks like he was put out there to play this game.
You know what it is? It's that body control. Guys who are that big, who have that much control of their body. He's good with his hands. He's got long arms. He has had a breakout ball game. But can you imagine if Duke played for the ACC championship this year? What a job. You wouldn't even... David Cutcliffe, the job that he would have done if they were able to get into the ACC championship game would be just phenomenal.
Not much of a surprise that David Cutcliffe can coach.
But watching them on film now, remember last year with Renfrey, they were a throw team. Now they've got a running team. They've completely changed what they're doing offensively and still very competitive.
Under 2 minutes to go.
This is also an important part of the game. If you're a coach, tell your guys to keep their feet moving around the pile. The last thing you'd want to happen is have some young man in garbage time get hurt. And some guys can start to lose focus. So got to keep these guys focused and their feet moving.
Lambert hit as he throws, looking for Mizell. It's incomplete.
That was a pretty good power rush by Tavares Barnes.
I think the Virginia offensive line did a really good job of pass protection today.
They gave some time, absolutely. It was not unlike what we saw against Oregon, which coincidentally ended at 59-10 as well earlier in the year. But Virginia just doesn't quite have the explosive athletes on offense yet.
Over the middle, tipped and incomplete. Touched but not held by Johnson. That do-over on that one.
Yeah, Johnson's going to be bummed about that one tomorrow. He's played so brilliantly. You see the long face after the drop there.
That was one of the things that has troubled the receiving corps all year long, is drop passes.
They had 10 dropped balls in their loss to Pittsburgh. 10.
That's something. Yeah. In a 14-3 game. Lambert to the sideline. That one's off the hands of Kanan Severin.
And the one thing that the Virginia offense did when they started playing some of these younger guys is they got bigger. You can see the size of some of these young receivers, and this is a catch. Just a moment ago, we saw Johnson dropping a ball that should have been caught. This one here. Mistimed his jump just slightly, not able to get both hands on it, but that's a play you'd hope young Severin could make.
4th and 10. Blitz coming. Lambert hangs in there and throws too high.
Well, Clemson gets a much-needed week off. Taj Boyd, who banged up his ankle against Florida State, had to wear a boot last week before the Maryland game, tweaked his knee a little bit. Everybody with their bumps and bruises.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time of the year to have a week off because everybody's sore.
Absolutely. And then you go play Georgia Tech. The hard part, you know, Brent Venables, he gets 2 weeks to worry about switching to how do you defend Georgia Tech with their option where they come off the ball so hard and so low, they'll often cut block guys. So he gets a week off, but every coach will tell you, if you're a defensive coordinator getting ready to play Georgia Tech, Venables may work all the way through the off day getting ready for the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, off means there's no game. That's about what that means.
Yeah. And I will say, give Brent Venables, and we said this at the end of the Maryland game, that second half of the Maryland game, the defense for Clemson was the difference in how they won. And once again, Clemson's defense, they have some things to shore up, no doubt, but this is a defense that has shown vast improvement from last season to this season.
That's the last play that Clemson has to run. The Tigers come to Charlottesville. It will be a happy trip home to Clemson, South Carolina, and the Virginia Cavaliers see their record deteriorate even more. They are now at 2-7. They are winless in the ACC Coastal Division. Clemson in the same Atlantic Division with Florida State. They have to hope the Seminoles lose 2, which right now looks unlikely. That's the final 59-10 for Ed Cunningham and Janine Edwards and our entire crew. This is Mike Patrick. Thanks for watching. Now to Reese Davis and the College Football Scoreboard.